I even have like a good tangent to make it look like we're starting like organically. But my girl was like, she invited me to go to this concert, and it's like this kind of like experimental group because they use like hip hop beats and like standard hip hop production, but then they play like violins over it, right? And
Okay.
I listened to a little bit of it, and it's like super vibey, right? And it's a week after the Smino concert, right? It's on April 1st, right? But I can't go. And I'm like, I'm sorry I can't go see the cool, artsy, experimental music group. I gotta go see the guy from Cumtown.
Hey.
I'm seeing,
Wait, who is this?
I'm seeing Stravos Halkiles. He's a comedian. He's hilarious. He used to be on the podcast Cumtown. So I'm like, sorry. Gotta go see the guy from Cumtown.
I'm sure that went over well.
She was like, "Oh, that's fine. Like, I just gotta find a friend." She's like, "You don't have to say Cumtown." Like,
If you feel weird saying it, you probably shouldn't say it.
no, I feel like I should say it. I feel like we need to normalize.
I guess
Oh
if
my
you can
God.
say so.
How's everyone feeling? How's everyone's week?
Pretty good.
I know we were like
Hanging in there.
hardcore business chit chatting.
Yeah,
You know, we were
it's a lot of
talking
work.
LLCs, bonds, investment.
bonds.
What if we're
The gold standard.
Yeah, the gold standard, crypto,
Yeah.
NFT.
While we're on the subject of performances, though, Purvis and I have some unfortunate news.
Oh no!
The Yeet concert has been delayed by about a month.
Yeah.
Oh no! Not
So
Yeet.
now it's in April, and he just released cover art for his new potential album.
He
today.
did.
Yeah.
He
So-
did really, and it looks dope.
I feel
Yeah,
like
might
I,
actually get a whole
Who knows?
new album.
okay. I'm gonna be
At the
honest.
concert.
I've heard like 2 or 3 Yeet songs. I really didn't like them, but like the way you have positioned it, like it's like industrial. It's like like a straight line from Gefaffelstein to Jesus to Yeet. It's like, is I tripping? So
It's close. I would say it's Gesaffelstein,
yeah.
Kanye, and then like Cardi,
Playboy Cardi.
and then
Yeah.
Yeet. It's like the chain of
Ooh,
yeah,
Playboy Cardi fans in disarray this week.
yeah.
No, yeah, he's been in trouble. I don't know what's wrong with him. It's not a good look. I'll say that.
Not a
So-
good look. Sorry, Cardi fans.
I was gonna say I don't have enough info to comment on that, but another thing in the performance world that's coming up here in Chicago, NASCAR is doing a street
yeah.
race downtown in the summertime.
I'm gonna plant bear traps. I hate it.
I'm excited for it. I got my ticket. I'm a big racing guy, but
Wait, bear traps.
bear traps for
There's no
NASCAR tires.
justification.
Yeah,
There's no
But,
justification for this.
No,
at all.
it's just like you can just use a lot of them, and it's just like
just
That is
pure
an
haterade energy
outlandish
right there.
comment. That is.
But
Dude,
An out-of-pocket
if
comment.
I'm not going to advocate for mild terrorism, why do I have a podcast?
well, that being said,
Jasper.
we've got 2 days worth of musical events at this thing.
Okay,
And they're not rap or hip hop related, but I figured I'd share because it's something different.
yeah.
So we got a total of 4 artists: the Chainsmokers, Miranda Lambert,
That.
the Black Crows, and Charlie Crockett are all going to be performing.
I've never heard of the Black Crows.
They're like a rock band, I guess. Their last album wasn't like critically really appreciated, but they've had some solid hits from what I understand. I'm not super familiar either.
Do you know is it possible you mean the Black Keys?
No, it's Crowes, Black Crows.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a look.
And so it's looking like, it's looking like Charlie Crockett is going to have kind of, I guess, a full set, and the Chainsmokers are going to do a full concert after the final series race on, I believe it's the Sunday of that weekend. It's gonna be
So-
it's gonna be fun.
The Black Crows.
Mhm.
I'm assuming this is an older band.
I
I'm
don't
putting them
know.
up on Spotify, and I'm seeing albums from like 1990.
I guess so I think it's one of those where like they were successful in the 90s and then they kind of like dipped and are kind of back, I guess, in a way. But Leave it to events like this. They're always finding music that is to the greatest taste, and that's how it is with Formula One. That's how it is with this. When I went to Formula One, not even I don't remember who played in 2021, but when I went in 2017, they had Justin Timberlake and Stevie Wonder. So
that's cool. That's a good bill.
Stevie Wonder
That's
bangs.
different.
Yeah. It is different.
No, I would see Stevie Wonder in a second. I would not think about that twice.
But it is true they go for artists that have that more kind of popular draw for sure, and that's what's going on here.
Yeah,
too, I feel like.
I was going to say they're trying to gain popularity. There's going to be certain demographics there anyway that probably bond to the artist. Yeah, I think it's a good choice.
Yeah. Like I'm not a particularly big fan of any of those artists, but like I'm not a big hater. I will
not be setting bear traps.
I just know it's gonna fuck up my commute, and I hate that.
It's on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yeah, but the installation is going to be, over weeks. Getting it set up and tearing it down.
We'll see. A lot of it's in Grant Park.
Yeah.
The event is around Grant Park, so I think it's going to be the equivalent of Lala, but for a shorter time period.
Maybe. I mean, if that's it, I was under the impression that it was going to be like throughout downtown, and like they were going to have to set it up and like shut down downtown for 3 or 4 days.
It's basically a figure eight that goes around Grant Park, so it does step onto Michigan.
A very interesting structure.
Yeah.
It is, and it steps onto a little bit of Lakeshore Drive. Those are the two places.
Yeah. So, and also like part of me, I don't know, I'm kind of split on this because it's like, man, it must suck if you live by there. But, like, only the worst people in the city live by Grant Park, so I don't feel too bad.
Nobody really, I was going to say.
Only, like...
They're in, like, North Loop.
I know one person that lives over
Trust
there.
fund babies and oil execs live in...
And DePaul students.
And,
DePaul
university, I lived by Grant Park when I lived...
People.
Yeah, I lived by Grant Park when I was in Columbia, actually, only, like, a block away. But I was also one of the worst people in the city, so... I stand by what I said.
Case in point.
Hey, you got a Harold's right there. It's basically in the West Side. Mentally, you.
It's like the South Loop is like the white West Side. Like,
it's gentrified a lot. I remember when I started at DePaul versus when I finished at DePaul versus how it is now.
Yeah.
My original plan, instead of buying my own place way out here further west, was to buy a condo in that area. And at the time, you could get a condo for 150 to 180 grand. Now it's like 300 to 400 grand.
Yeah, no, it's gotten,
in like 5 years.
Yeah, no, it's been built up like crazy. And like I remember when I told my dad, like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Columbia, and it's over like on 8th and Michigan." He was like, "This used to be Skid Row. This is where like heroin was bought and like people shot each other."
And it's like a really nice area now. Like,
to be fair, it's
totally different.
To be fair, like there was definitely like a 40-year period where it stopped being Skid Row
for sure,
but was like still relatively working class. So I just want to be fair. It's not like it went from one to the other.
Shout out to Success. Yeah, shout out to Success on Michigan, 2214 South Michigan. Yeah. That's like, you get just past that, Motor Row, that whole area, you get to the expressway. Once you cross the expressway and you're by Mercy, that's where it starts getting a little sketchier now.
Yeah.
So the boundary's gotten pushed over time. And I used to live on 29th and Wentworth, just west of there. So, yeah, it's an interesting area.
Yeah.
We love gentrification.
Stop it. Don't let them do
politics.
Don't say something they can take out of context.
Yeah, there you go.
I dare someone to try and clip me and like take anything I say out of context. I will absolutely come at them so much far worse than
think of all the things I've said. What if someone takes something you said? And it's like, Randy was just saying terrorism.
It's like, bro, please. But anyway.
All right, shall we jump into the news?
We're back to a somewhat... this is like... We're back to a somewhat normal episode.
Yeah, it's been a wild, like, month and a half of, like, just crazy stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not complaining at all. We went video, we had a first interview, we had a Blitz episode, we had a 3-person deep dive. But I'm kind of tired. I'm not going to lie.
We're doing a cozy episode.
cozy episode.
Yeah.
Jasper, this is literally what we talked about before you joined the call. Like the first thing Brandon and I said to each other, just like, man, feeling kind of cozy.
Yeah, this is kind of like back in
I
our
just
comfort
feel
zone.
like
Valid.
This is going to be the
everyone can
rare
just kind of settle down.
podcast length podcast. It's not going to be
as it should.
shorter than a TV episode, or longer than a movie. Like,
Perfect.
it's going to be normal.
But there's finally some action going on. It's been an insanely slow start to the year, in my opinion, compared to other years, at least that we've experienced. In terms of albums, there really wasn't much I could find. There is rumors of Metro Boomin coming out with the Villains version. As we all know, technically, the last album that came out in December was the Heroes version.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is considered a deluxe or like full on like part 2.
Yeah. It sounds like a deluxe.
Yeah.
Like when I hear version, I think deluxe, but I could be wrong.
The thing is that like I'm curious about is will it be expansions like remixes or will it actually be whole new songs? Because since that albums came out, the infamous Drake verse that didn't make it onto the song is like more popular than the actual song now that has Young Thug and Travis Scott. So I'm curious what else is in the vault that like did not get released.
Yeah.
So that's coming out. I also found out, I don't know if you guys know D Salvage, that I found him not too long ago. I feel like he had a TikTok song that blew up. He has an album coming out this week called Mafia Music. And then we also have Skrillex. Did anyone listen to Skrillex growing up? I'm actually curious.
Not listened to, but I think it's pretty impossible to escape the
Everything
effect.
about him.
Yeah, and everything that came after that. I mean, I've never listened to him actively, and I've still seen him live. Like it just happened. It does. Skrillex happens to you. Yeah, coloring day.
That's a good way to put it. How was the live concert?
It was solid.
Was the energy there?
The energy was there, and he and Chance did an on-stage like mashup live, which was wild.
With Chance. When was this?
he was the closeout act at Coloring Day.
Skrillex?
How was that Coloring Day? He was the closing act?
He was the closing act. If you stayed past Chance, he was after Chance.
Maybe I've seen Skrillex live and just
I was in Cellular Field from 12:10 p.m. to 12:30 a.m.
It literally
he closed out at midnight, literally.
Wow.
I wonder if I stayed. Maybe I've seen him live and I just don't recall it. That's actually pretty dope now that you mentioned that.
Like I said, Skrillex happens to you.
It just kind of happens to you. I actually am excited because like you said, I feel like this is a song that's ingrained in our culture now, especially gaming culture with the whole Call of Duty phase. But the album is supposed to feature Justin Bieber, Kid Cudi, Don Toliver, Sway Lee, Trippie Redd, Chief Keef, Young Lean, and the Pink Panthers. Like this feels like a hip hop album.
List.
Like
you know what?
That's a roster. He has that one song with A$AP Rocky.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm excited.
I was never a fan of Skrillex. I was just never a big fan of like dubstep, and he was like kind of the face of that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not hating on the guy. Like, I don't think he's like awful. He's no Nav, but like, you know,
smooth.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not hating. I am actually like lukewarm on seeing him in concert. Right? I don't know if I would ever buy a ticket, but like if he was closing a festival I was at and I had nothing better to do, I'd go.
Yeah, he's you know what?
I would much rather see him live than listen to an album of his.
Well, that being said, I actually do want to give him his flowers for a second here, just because musical taste aside, respect to artists in this genre who are going out of their way to adhere to the album format. Because I feel like it's so hard to consume this kind of music in that format. You get so many singles, so many little EPs or LPs that are, like remixes.
Yeah.
And you just don't see like a full-fledged album anymore. And I think that
it's difficult.
kind of detracts from it. Yeah. So shout out to that.
I definitely agree with that. And look, there's a lot of nice things you can say about Skrillex, like opinion, taste in music aside. Dude's undeniably one of the most influential figures from the early 2010s, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Especially
there's a
for the
lot
genre,
there's a lot of flowers to give that guy. It's just that, like, you know, if you don't like horror movies, you're not going to see Friday the 13th. It's like,
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
it's like him and Steve Aoki, I feel like, are like the
yeah,
Those are the big ones.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
the like 2010
sure.
openers who gave way to them and like
they
Nero.
like part of the electric music revolution that happened in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And I liked Steve Aoki a little bit more, but still, like, you know,
It's all in the same.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I like house music, but like that's kind of like the only electronic I like. Not really. I like all of it, but don't love any of it.
How it goes.
Oof.
Surprisingly enough, we've been to a house music concert. I forgot
Yes.
about that.
Yeah,
That was fun.
I went back last year.
That was dope.
I went back last year.
Really?
We saw the live. We saw the DJ who headlined it did the first remix from Renaissance. He did the Break My
Yeah,
Soul
I think I do
remix.
remember you telling me this,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, so my
That's
house
really
on the
dope.
south side in Pilsen. I'm going to be going every year because, like, it's a 2-day festival. Tickets are $40. Like, it's
Like,
very
it's hard to
local.
be upset at that.
It's so much fun. It's a great vibe. 10 out of 10.
I'll be joining you.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Also, I told Purvis this. Just gonna bring this up because it's gonna come back on the show. My girlfriend got Beyonce tickets for me and her, and it's like, oh my god.
A challenge.
Yeah, she is like has like a golden
A
touch.
queen.
She is like a golden.
She's a
touch of
queen.
tickets. She got Fall Out Boy and Beyonce.
Is she trying to apply her skills to getting sneakers because that's a
Please.
well-paying industry?
I'll tell her if she could quit her job doing that. Like,
Man, actually, though.
yeah,
Maybe not in this market, but give it like 6 months and we'll
Yeah.
see where we're at.
yeah.
Once that Air movie comes out,
Dude,
really
I
gonna see
cannot
some
wait
profits.
for that Air movie. Are we gonna do an Air
that's
movie
gonna
review?
be fun.
Let's do
Oh,
it.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we gotta all
Yeah,
see
yeah,
that
we-
together. Because, like, my girlfriend's like, I don't care about Ben Affleck in a tracksuit. And I'm like,
It's
you
like
don't understand
basketball.
his directorial vision.
It's like you gotta read Shoe Dog.
I do. My thing is, like, I'm just such a big fan of Ben Affleck as a director.
Oh, true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dude, The Town, fucking classic. Absolute classic. Argo, classic. The last one he did, fine. But this looks great. Like,
I'm excited for it, honestly.
Yeah.
I think after The Last Dance and how successful that was,
Yeah.
I feel like the bar is extremely high
You know what
for
you should-
anything Jordan related, as
Yeah.
usual.
yeah, no, definitely. And I love how it's about his family. You know, it is very much about that process. I think it looks great. I think I like the whole shoe thing, but like I've never had the money to like get into the game. So
Until now.
until now. But
We're gonna
also
get you some
kind of
Jordan
the
ones
cool-
real soon.
That's kind of the cool thing too, is you don't necessarily need money to participate. It like gets you in the door, but it's about like what you take away from it rather than just like what you can afford.
Yeah,
for a lot of
yeah.
times.
Yeah, I understand that it's about way more than money. Like I respect that, except the reselling game. I think that's lame as shit. And
Yeah,
In
it's
all
a good
markets.
meme. It's a good meme.
yeah, like
I understand.
yeah, like except that. But no, I totally understand that like the sneaker culture is about way more than money. And yeah, so I get that. It's just, you know, I've been buying $70 shoes so I can afford my electric bill. So it's like
Valid.
yeah. So but
I mean, don't get me wrong. Every shoe I have up there, waste of money.
yeah.
Shouldn't have done it.
That's fair.
But no, I'm not gonna say I
No, if
shouldn't
you
have
like
done
it,
But
no, if you like it,
yeah,
you
yeah.
like it. That's not a big deal. It's a piece of art, you know.
Definitely. Sometimes you look at it and be like, "That's a lot of money," and I know Jasper knows what I mean.
Yeah. So I may be
Taking a step
pulling
back and be like, "That's a lot of money."
I may be pulling on your resources in a few months to expand because it's something I want to do this year is buy at least a few pairs.
What's that shoe
You're
you
gonna
wear?
get you some Jordan
13.
ones.
I have some
Oh, that's-
13s. I can hook
That's
you up.
easy.
We'll see.
We'll get you some real soon.
Because I'm a 12 usually.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a 13. Sometimes I'm a 14, but very rarely. Usually only Adidas.
Yeah.
We'll
Adidas fit
check them
narrow,
out.
so that
We'll figure out the
checks
out.
size.
All right.
It's normally true to size.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, but yeah, singles and videos. We got a lot of stuff coming out. Ray Vaughn, the newest member to TDE, featuring Absol.
Ooh.
They did release the song Sandcastle. I don't know if you heard it. It's
I have
pretty
not.
good. I like it. I think Ray Vaughn. I have to see more. I just have to see more. It reminds me too much of people that are already in the group, which I don't think benefits him, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm excited for that video. Alicia Keys featuring Lucky Day. This is gonna be some strong R&B vibes. I saw some snippets of it, taking it back to the classic 1990s R&B music videos that I just didn't. I wasn't. Unfortunately, I wasn't old enough to enjoy the moment. But man, was it's like a staple in the community. I feel like just like classic 90s music videos.
It's
So
just like a
excited for that.
mythologized movement in music.
Literally.
The same way that like
It's-
rock music in the late 60s is just like an era, you know.
Yeah, it's literally it's a staple of time in itself. So I love the concept of it, and if anyone could do it right now, that is a female R&B artist. Alicia Keys is a pretty good option.
She's talented as fuck.
Goddamn. Black women it's Black History Month. Rihanna, Alicia Keys, you guys doing your thing. Beyonce doing her thing. But anyway, IDK is coming out with a single, Radioactive. I think this is super exciting.
I just had flashbacks to 2013, like Vietnam style
What's that?
flashbacks. Imagine Dragons Radioactive.
Oh no.
Wait.
Their first album was called Radioactive. It was
No.
Well, it was a single. I don't think I don't think the album was called that, but they
Maybe
had
it
a single called that.
yeah, it was their lead single. It's my Vietnam.
That's why I
every
said
song
Vietnam
now
flashbacks.
It is the atrocity that hit my life. I think that was the nail in the coffin for like, nope, I'm strictly hip hop from now on. Like,
Imagine Dragons, Macklemore, and like, was it Carly Rae
Jesus.
Jepsen? We're all like
Yeah.
around the same time. Wild. It was just a wild
That is
time in pop
Carly
music.
Rae Jepsen though is good.
She's talented,
She's
but
talented, but yes,
I gotta say that song was very annoying at the time.
fair. I'll give you that. Fair.
Very overplayed.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it worked
Sorry
out.
to
though.
take
It
you
worked
guys
out
back
for
there.
her.
Shake it off.
Petition. Don't you tell me to shake it off. That's even worse.
I swear it wasn't on purpose. I swear it wasn't.
Not Swift. Not Swift.
We're just going through all the terrible pop
No.
eras that we've had to experience.
It's like,
but
hey, home
anyway.
assistant, play Fortunate Son while I cry in the corner.
It's just pain. It's pain everywhere. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Just like playing in a loop. But what I am very excited about are actually hip hop singles coming out. Polo G featuring Future. Again, it's been a very slow start to the year. I feel like we would have heard something from Future by now. He's a very
Prolific.
early year kind of person to release. But Polo G featuring Future, they're coming out with No Time Wasted. I'm not sure this is just toxic. Don Toliver featuring Kali Uchis, I believe that's how you pronounce it, called For Me, a special single that dropped on Valentine's Day. Great song. And then tonight he's following it up with another song featuring Little Durk and Glorilla called Leave the Club. I feel like
He's on the runway. He's on the runway. It's Tolly
Don Toliver's
season.
album.
It's
is
Tolly
soon.
season.
If Don Toliver leaves the club, is that the point when he goes to the after party?
Ah!
It's a whole storyline. We're getting timelines and breaking it down.
It's like a
Also,
Christopher Nolan
we-
movie. It's like it's all over.
We mentioned it. Yeah, we mentioned it in the little chat we have. But Don Toliver has one dance move.
Yeah.
One dance move.
It's great, but he has one.
Fully with it or whatever it's called.
It's the footwork. He's putting the footwork in.
Yeah. I have not heard the song he has with Kelly Uchis. I'm going to probably right after
Really
this.
good.
You know my opinion on Don Toliver. I like him.
It's actually very, very good.
Yeah, I believe it. I really like the songs he had on the Metro Boomin album. Yeah. So like, look,
It's Dolly season.
I think he has potential, but he just hasn't come close to meeting it, in my opinion.
I think he could ascend to like weekend level status when it comes to like pop, like his sound. Well, no, listen.
That's a big X.
I think with the right features, the right promotion, I think like his sound, his style, there's definitely room for it on that like more general stage.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of getting in front of those people.
Yeah, I guess when you put it that way,
he does have the skill and talent to do that. It's just it's hard when you hear like comparing someone to The Weeknd. It's like,
but he's super young too, right? How old is Don Toliver?
Yeah,
Don Toliver's age?
Let's see.
He's 28.
He's 28. Yeah, so he's got time to grow.
Sure, but like The Weeknd,
he was 22. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Sure, but at the same time, The Weeknd put out all 3 trilogies by the time he was like 20. So like, I just think like that level of career.
That's fair. I agree with that. I guess stylistically, I think there's like a space for his sound to be popular.
Yeah,
maybe artistically he doesn't have the same drive or the same songwriting capacity, but still,
I would just simply catalog. Yeah, no, I love his sound. Yeah. I just think I think Heaven and Hell is a good project, but I don't think it's anything really that special. It has a really, really cool sound. That's fine. Like, look, it's not a project I hate you for liking. It's not.
I think there are some standout tracks on there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I would agree. It's not like it's an album that I sit down and I'm like, yeah, I know every single song and how they go into each other. Yeah. I think that he's as a feature, he's just been like so consistent. Like nobody else really, in my opinion, has been that consistent over like 5 or 6 years at this point.
That's fair. I'll say that as a feature, that's definitely a valid argument.
Because Can't Say, and then the Jack Boys album, just like back to back, he's like featuring and just leading songs and doing well.
My thing is that
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say I think an appropriate goal instead of The Weeknd, if he can surpass Travis Scott, then I think like he's done everything correct. I think Travis Scott is a more attainable goal.
I have a hot take on this.
I think it's possible, but I think that might even be underestimating like. Travis Scott. Even that's I think even that. I think that's a lofty goal, but like I think it's possible. But yeah, no. My thing about when I left Heaven or Hell when we did the deep dive about 7-8 months ago, my immediate reaction was just that like, oh, I like this kid. I think he can do better. And I feel like when your immediate reaction is like, no matter how positive it is, your immediate reaction is like, oh, I believe this guy as an artist has so much more room to grow. It does kind of put a ceiling on how much you can enjoy that project, I think. Not that I don't think it's good, not that I don't revisit it. After Party is a classic, in my opinion, a classic track. But like,
I love Euphoria, man. That track hits.
Euphoria is a good track.
And I would say
Purvis really likes is good.
It's better, I think, and like you mentioned, I think it's better to have that moment where you don't enjoy an album as much, and there's a ceiling on enjoying an album versus a ceiling on what you think an artist is capable of. Because the fact that there is no ceiling on that for you, I think it speaks to like the fact that he could continue to, improve his craft. Maybe he goes the Pusha T route and just
could be valid.
iterates, and
could be valid.
That's
I completely agree with you on that one. Yeah, that's a great way to summarize how I feel. I like Dude a lot. It's just I hope he lives up to his potential, but like
definitely,
I think he's getting there. I think he's ramping up.
Yeah.
I don't think Life of a Don was a step backwards.
Yeah.
Or Life of a Don 2.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
All right, so shall we get to the news?
Yes. We have a lot of lists to cover this year.
Yeah.
Not this year, this week.
I did not look at any of these lists, so.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's mostly glaze over on some of the things that are releasing at the beginning of the year, or the end of the fiscal year for business people, which is probably why this is coming out. But the top 50 sneakers list was released for all those sneakers heads. I highly recommend checking this out. There is I don't want to say questionable, but a lot of hot takes, I guess, would be a good take or a good term for some of the things on the list. You will, of course, find a lot of Jordans. You'll find a
So
lot of collaborations and a lot
this
of
list is
Yeezys.
this list is specifically the top 50 Nikes of all time.
Oh, this is Nikes.
This is just
Okay.
Nikes, not
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's surprising because I think we talked about this at work. Wasn't there a list that included Yeezy? Or are they
Yeah,
referring to
because
the red bottoms?
The Air Yeezys.
Kanye had two Air Yeezy
No.
models with Nike from 2009 to 2013. So they included both models on this list because they are some of the most sought after and some of the most, expensive shoes money can buy. So yeah,
Interesting.
those are on there. And we've got all kinds of crazy pop culture stuff on here that ties in with music. We've got the Nike mags that were created for charity that, Marty McFly.
Oh, the Back to the Future
wore.
ones? Hell yeah. I
Yeah,
love
the
those.
self-lacing when they actually made the auto-lacing shoes. We've got stuff that has been made popular by Skepta with like the Air Max Plus and
Oh, that's
stuff
cool.
like that. We've got like Blazers. We've got
Oh, I love
all the
Blazers.
different Jordans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just there's a lot of crossover here. I guarantee, like you scroll through this list, you're like, oh, I know that shoe from that video. Like that's just like a common theme here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got like Do the Right Thing, like fours. We've got, just all kinds of stuff. So worth a look if you're into that kind of thing. And, we got a little music tie in. So
That's cool.
solid list.
We're gonna have to revisit soon.
Yeah.
Besides that, we also had Rolling Stones come out with the top 50 worst albums by brilliant artists. Now, we've discussed many times that many of these corporations or reviewing agencies, whatever you want to call them, just don't make good lists or good opinions in general.
The phrase would be publication.
Yeah, it's just all of their lists are terrible. Two things that I just wanted to quickly point out: Lil Wayne Rebirth was on this list.
I
And
think
even
that's
worse-
fine. No, I think that's fine.
I think there's so much worse you can put.
No, Rebirth is real bad. Like I listened to it at the time, dude, and even at the time, like I'm like maybe 2 songs.
You hated
are
it.
okay. Dude.
What
This was
position-
his rock album, though, right?
Yeah, it's not good. Like Drop the World is okay, but it was proved immediately irrelevant when Eminem and Lil Wayne had a much superior collab on Eminem's album.
Right.
Yeah, so
But they also put
This
Kanye
is the
West
one-
Ye at one.
that's insane. That's
At number one.
That is
That's not valid when Jesus is King exists.
Yeah, 100%. That's insane. I do not think Rebirth is insane. If anything, I think it's really high. Like, I think it should be closer to number one. If I'm keeping
Even closer to them. Okay, so
keeping it
that's
real.
actually that's what was going to be my actual question, because like obviously my expectations for these lists aren't very high. If Kanye West, Ye or Ye, whatever, is
that's
at
an
number one,
awful take.
That's a terrible take.
Ye is a delightful
That's a terrible
album.
take.
Is it? Is there an argument it's Kanye's worst album besides Jesus is King and Donda 2? Sure. I don't know if I agree with that, but sure.
Right, like somebody can argue it, and I won't be
Yeah.
like insanely mad at them.
Yeah, like it's far from his
Um,
best, but
I'm
like,
actually
that's crazy.
I just looked through this list.
I-
I can't believe that like Eminem's Revival didn't make this list.
Is
it did
it?
not.
Is it?
It's not on here.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
It's all genres as well. So
Is
Yeah.
it? Well, that makes
I
sense.
guess they tried to
I guess like
tried to mix it in. So
are you trying to say like what do we think are like worst albums by brilliant artists?
I was gonna say just give me one, and so just
Oh, I have a.
I want to
have
knock
one.
this off the table
Locked and loaded. I have
Okay.
one. Oh, Speeding Bullet to
because
Heaven.
that was mine.
Yeah, like
that was
Speeding Bullet to
and I know
Heaven.
Jasper hates that take, but that was mine. My
That album is
personal
over.
one-
That album is overhated. It's no longer trendy to hate that album.
No, disagree. As someone who like, listen, we talked about Alice in
That was-
Chains for
that
30
was
minutes
personally
last
mine.
week. As someone who was like a huge fan of the rock movement that he was doing, I thought it was like the most pitiful. It is MGK, pop punk level bad. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion on this.
Oh man, that's a hot take. I think
I
MGK is made worse than that.
no,
I think
Speeding
I was
Bullet
gonna
that
say MGK is like the worst
I think
thing you can compare.
mainstream
It's
sellout
bad, but it's
is
not
far
bad.
and away worse than that. I think mainstream sellout definitely is worse than that.
I'm not capping for like mainstream sellout, but I really do. Speeding Bullet to Heaven was one of the worst heartbreaks I've ever had in my life.
So personally, that was mine, and one of my
Yeah.
friends also gave another really good one,
Yeah.
"The Big Day" by Chance the Rapper.
Yeah, that's obvious.
I think, but here's the thing.
Terrible one.
I think the problem with both of these takes is that they're so dependent on expectations, right? Like, because we have such a preconceived notion of what good albums these artists are capable of making, so they just are never good, even though they're not, say, good or the best work in their discography or anywhere, like maybe they sit at the bottom, but we still, I think, tend to overhate just because we were expecting something in a different vein and we were really let down. And I've definitely been there with other artists as well, but I think it's just one of those things where you're going in expecting one thing and really getting something you didn't want.
I feel like that is absolutely a phenomenon that happens. I think my experience
I don't think this applies.
Speeding Bullet to Heaven is literally the exact opposite. Because I was
Really?
I do think it's completely true.
Yeah.
That expectations plays into it, but like
very real
that
phenomenon.
album and The Big Day is objectively bad.
I don't like the phrase objectively bad because there's no such thing. But I'll say this.
It's not a good album, regardless of what my expectations are.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you that in these cases, I don't think it's expectations. But like, I feel like I was very much primed to enjoy this album because I was coming hot off of Wizard. I really wanted him to return to a Wizard-like sound. I was a defender of Indicud because I love that album. I think it's great. So like, I was coming like, and then there was that Mother Moon album that I even really liked.
Satellite Flight,
yeah. And I'm like, okay, like, and then like I'm also like a big fan of grunge music. Like when I heard like, oh, this is the sound he's going to be evocating, like an early Nirvana, Soundgarden kind of grunge. I was like right there. I was in his pocket. I was going to be the easiest person for him to impress with this album. And I hated it. Like, to the point where I think it's legitimately disrespectful to the artist he's pulling off from, because it's so shameful, it's so tacky. Like, that's just my opinion.
I think thing of like setting expectations and not being like satisfied with what you actually perceive, that is one level to actually think an album's not like good personally. And one example of that, Brandon, I know you hate this, but like we talked about Don FM.
Yeah, no,
I
Don
had
FM's
certain expectations on the weekend.
Don
FM's not a bad album.
No, I do not hate that take. I do not hate that take.
I don't really connect to it.
Because even I, who liked it at the time,
I do think that exists.
No, I totally think that's a real phenomenon. That is definitely real. Yeah. Like, 100%. I just think, like, in the specific case of Speeding Bullet to Heaven, I was primed for it. So that's my argument for that. But if I'm trying to come up with another one now.
Jasper, what's your first one, if you do have one?
For me, it's off the top of my head, it's either Revival or Jesus is King.
Those are very
because
Jesus is King had a lot of hype too.
Think about what Revival
is very bad.
And here we're talking about expectations again. Think about what Revival followed, right? His first album in 4 years. It comes after Marshall Mathers LP2, which was celebrated, top-selling album of the year, sat on the charts forever with like tons of banger collaborations and solid songs throughout. Some things are playlistable off of that. And then you get Revival, which I feel like Eminem and Kanye did the same thing around the same time, where they started making music that, instead of being timeless in its execution, really dated itself by starting to bring up current events. And I think Ye is guilty of this too. 2017, 2018, there was like a shift.
Yeah.
Right? You see Eminem complaining about Trump. You see Kanye referencing Stormy Daniels and just doing things that really cement that work in a period. And I don't think there's any song on either of those albums that's good enough to overcome that. I think it like makes it like feel dated now. Where you look at like early stuff from Eminem where it's constant pop culture references, but there's the redeeming quality of the fact that, hey, this beat slaps, the bars are good.
This is a
like,
good song.
Christina Aguilera might have to switch me chairs. Like, it's just one of those things where I think that they just lacked in execution, and then the subject matter really wasn't redeeming at all, to the point where it's listenable now. I think Jesus is King honestly feels more disingenuous overall, looking at the way Kanye's gone, but that's the power of hindsight for you. I think that at the time, Revival was critically the worst of the two, but I think Kanye's is especially offensive now, to me personally.
I have one that's going to piss off Purvis.
Go on.
More Life. That song's barely an album.
There's so many things that could go into that. Like,
it's tough. It's tough. I don't think that's like an insane take. I don't agree with it, because I feel like there's also, if you were gonna take that route, I would apply that to Scorpion more than More Life.
What about Honestly Nevermind?
Oh no, there we go. That's the winner. Yeah, you got me. Like,
come on,
there you go.
Like, what?
There you go. I was like, there's got to be one. There's got to be one. Like, there's one I'm missing.
There is one for it.
Honestly, Nevermind.
It is. I don't think we could even consider it because it's not a hip hop album. But the correct answer, yes.
Yeah, because it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny in its own genre.
No, I think
it's
most,
a good take.
Hot take here for me, because everybody loves to hate me for this, especially in the office. I think most Drake music doesn't stand up to scrutiny, period, whether it's critical, musical, or lyrical. But that's just me. So, especially the new stuff. But
you gotta.
I don't hate that.
Okay, that's fine. You gotta find the good things. You gotta.
I don't hate that.
You gotta find the good things.
I have a pretty strong line on where that starts to happen, but I don't hate that take.
I think that so many people take it so personally when you talk about an artist like that.
Yeah.
But which is really funny to me, because Drake is like the Apple of the industry.
The most commercial.
And when I say things like that about either one, whether it's Apple or whether it's Drake, I get the same response where people it's a personal attack because they like that thing.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things for me where it's just it doesn't click because it doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have that for me. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I did think about another one that I know I'm going to get heat for. This is more applying towards that second theory where we were saying like we have a certain expectation and it may not hit it. So it's not necessarily a bad album by the artist, but it just doesn't reach expectations. This isn't me personally, but I've heard this many times. For Your Eyes Only, J. Cole did not meet a lot of people.
I agree with that. No,
and
I
is
agree
considered
with that.
his worst album.
I agree with that. I don't think it's an awful album.
No, not at all.
I don't think it's an awful album. It has my favorite.
But compared to the
song.
rest of his work,
it's seriously behind the rest of his work. I actually have another one. Big Crits Was Here. Kind of like a little bit worse.
That's another good one.
Yeah, kind of a little bit worse than All Eyes on Me. Not a bad album, not the worst album in the world, but just really lacking from the rest of his catalog. There's like a couple really great songs on it, but like really far behind like the rest of his work. So yeah, Crit Was Here and All Eyes on Me, I think, fit into that pretty well. I don't think they're abysmal, but strong, clearly behind the rest of the work.
I have one more.
You are pushing through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, and this is an artist who I like every project. I just think it's the worst of the set and leaves the most to be desired. Is Days Before Rodeo. Travis Scott.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I've heard Days Before Rodeo a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
That's
not even
a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
I'm not even the biggest.
That's a tough one.
I'm not even the biggest Travis Scott fan. But my immediate counter argument is just, does it feel almost like a shortcoming? Yeah, I agree with that. But I feel like it's Days Before Rodeo, and Rodeo fulfills the promises of it. So I can't.
Agree.
I can't fault it for being the setup.
I just think that Days Before is held in like such high regard a lot of the time, especially a lot of the singles on it. Complex did a list when Astroworld came out of like it was when Days Before had like an anniversary they rated it number 1 of like their favorite Travis projects, and I was like, who is smoking what in that office, and can I have some? Because what is the reality?
That's a bad take.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right?
Take.
Let me preface this saying we talked about this off stream a while back, or off camera a while back, where Travis is the only artist I can think of off the top of my head where I don't dislike a single song of his. Like every song I've ever heard of his, I like in some way. It has a redeeming quality to me, or I enjoy it. That being said, I feel like Days Before starts off super strong and then kind of falls into like, it's like overly complex and just kind of like awkward. The second half of it does not play out in like a what feels like a well constructed way. You get tracks that kind of not run into each other, but are almost like too wordy and too filled or crowded for their own good. It feels messy, like Backyard, Basement, and then even the bonus track Back. Just the way they're structured and the way they sit around each other. There's just something about it that it rubs me the wrong way. That being said, I really like Gray as being like almost like an interlude because it gives you a break from
Gray
that.
is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I think that mixtape tends to like start off really strong. You get like
the
prayer, not even the prayer. What's it called? Like
perfect point.
Like Mamacita and everything else, and then it just kind of like. And I feel that way about Life of Pablo too. Hot take, but
I think what you just said is the biggest point. I think, and this might be a crazy take, but the amount of success that's came out of Days Before Rodeo has been its like demise in reality, because a lot of people actually hold this up to an album standard, and it's not an album. Like people forget this is literally just a mixtape. Yeah. And with that being said, this should be considered one of the best mixtapes, up there with like Acid Rap, up there with 1993. There's so many other examples in 1999. Sorry, but it's so many other examples, and it's because you have songs like Mamacita, you have songs like Drugs You Should Try, or Drugs You Should Try It, because that is debatably a top 5, top 3 Travis song.
I've only heard
at least regarding to the community.
I just looked at the track listing. For me, I'm going to go through it here. Days Before Rodeo, The Prayer, Mamacita, Quintana Part 2, Drugs You Should Try, and Don't Play are all like here for me, right? It's
and then, right.
Skyfall is where we start to have problems. I don't have problems with that track, but it's slow, it's long, it's like 5 minutes. And then from there, Zombies, Sloppy Toppy, which is just a fucking meme at this point. Basement Freestyle Back, and this is where we get into like the trough of the album, I feel like.
Right.
And then we come back a little bit with Gray and with Back. And that's just like, it's literally just like.
It's true. It just slows down so much at the later half of it.
It becomes so reliant on like fast rapping in a way that's just not, for me, as pleasing as the other sounds in the album. Like Backyard is the great example. It's the chorus on Backyard I just don't like. Like, it's not a bad song, but it's by itself, but in the context of the project.
Yeah, I agree. I gotta revisit. I hopped on Travis Scott with Rodeo, and I like Rodeo a lot, so I just kind of stuck around there.
I am so happy that I get to claim to be the person that put you on Travis Scott. You have no idea.
I have.
That is like my happiest achievement.
I have warmed up to Birds a little bit more.
Dude, we gotta do a deep dive on Owl Pharaoh, man. It turns 10 this year. Oh my god.
Owl Pharaoh is primed. I would say that's a good project to pick.
I love Owl Pharaoh. I like Owl Pharaoh better than Days Before.
I think that's a pretty common take, though.
I don't think so. I think people really like Days Before for the hits, like Drugs You Should Try and, Mamacita.
Drugs You Should Try It is debatably Travis Scott's, like,
I find that
song.
I find that a lot of younger fans,
up there.
And that's a lot of Travis Scott's fan bases, younger fans, don't know Owl Pharaoh. It came out when I was in the middle of high school.
Yeah.
And a lot of his fans are in high school now.
It's
like early college.
Yeah. They just don't know the good old days.
Yeah, I mean, Rodeo came out when I was a senior in high school. That's how fucking old I feel right now.
I was a junior in college, and like an old junior at that.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, then I was probably a freshman. But anyway,
Yeah. All right. Let's boogie on to this because we got
to the big news. I'm gonna let you all take over.
we're
The
gonna do
last
South
one?
by Southwest first, and then we'll do Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Jasper, you brought this to our attention, and I think it's something I really want to talk about. So give us a
Fantastic
rundown.
article.
Yeah.
All right, South by Southwest is, the famous Austin Music Festival. Has caught a lot of flack recently over grossly underpaying artists and not keeping up the kind of compensation structure of artists with, the state of the world over the last, I'd say, 10 or so years. And it's always been kind of a problem, maybe more than 10 years, but it's always been kind of a problem. But this year it's especially egregious, and a lot of artists have banded together to sign up effectively like a petition, make a little organization to fight for better rights, and they're catching a lot of flack. And I'm going to read you a little bit of an article here that I pulled up for this, just about what the exact terms and figures are right now, because they are disgusting. So over 120 artists signed an open letter to the festival demanding what they consider to be fair compensation for performing at South by Southwest. Current compensation structure for the show offers artists the choice of a one-time payment of $250 for bands, or $100 for a solo artist performance, or so they can choose cash money or a wristband that grants access to conference and festival programming. Those are the choices. So you play a festival as an artist, you get paid $250 for a band to split, or $100 for a solo artist, or you choose to attend the festival at which you are performing. With that, the wristband grants access to conference and festival programming as well as artist-only areas. Those numbers have not changed in over a decade. Meanwhile, the application fee that artists are required to pay to apply to perform at South by Southwest went from $40 to $55. So when you account for the application fee, if you are a band, you are walking out with $195 to pay a music festival that doesn't, or to play a music festival that doesn't release figures on their revenue, but it's estimated they make $20 to $30 million a year.
Yeah. And it's just
exploitation
101 here.
Yeah, 5,001 artists applied in 2022, and in this case, there's a couple hundred artists who are signing this up.
Insane.
Yeah, and now listen to their demands. This is what's sad, right?
Yeah.
The letter published includes 4 demands total. They want a guaranteed increase of $750 for all artists. So they want to be paid at least $750 to perform, which is still pennies for
even that is still
barely anything.
There's nothing, nowhere near the
Keep
value they bring into the festival.
Yeah, and here's the really
they say
part.
It costs less than a single music badge that's in the festival.
The value of the music badge that you have to buy to attend South by Southwest, $895. So they're still asking for less money than what the badge is worth as far as attendance.
Yeah.
Now, with that, artists shouldn't have to. They're saying artists shouldn't have to choose between getting the badge and getting paid. It should be both. They want that. And then with that, they want, as far as payment, they want non-immigrant work visas for international artists, as well as a cancellation of fees for applications. All of which I think are totally reasonable for artists who are literally what the festival derives its value from.
Beyond
and this is
reasonable.
this is just another extension of what we see in the post-COVID world, where it feels like there is no shame, there are no consequences, and corporate greed runs rampant and continues to screw over people who work hard. So it's just it's a great time to be alive, and I really hope these artists get all that they want and more. And I
love this whole thing.
I know no one in our audience is going to go to South by Southwest, but I hope that South by Southwest gets a hit in attendance from stuff like this, because it's just egregious.
It's disgusting.
This is
totally.
And all I can say to that is, workers of the world unite.
Yeah.
This whole situation is terrible, and I love the idea that they are positioning against this. Because there would not be a festival without the artists there at all.
No, definitely.
They literally wouldn't be a festival at all.
One of the
so I think this is completely fair, and I love this.
One other thing that's really stupid that I don't think they even wrote into the requests: when artists sign a contract to work South by Southwest, they effectively have to sign a non-compete for the duration of the festival. So if you're performing and you have like 2 gigs at South by Southwest, you can't go later that night if you've got a day gig and perform at like a club that's not part of the festival,
and
which is bullshit.
Which is
you can't make your money, just being an artist. You have to sign with them for that period because they need.
There's no reason for that.
And even other festivals,
they're trying to protect like their thing. Like, only we have.
That's what I'm saying. It's a controlling. It's a controlling. Never mind. Let me know.
No, I think you're right on the money. It's just it's an act of power. That's really what it is. It's just like to keep them in line. Which is insane.
It's insane
because even most music festivals build an entire secondary economy from after shows, like Lollapalooza and Riot Fest,
such as Lolla.
Yeah, they have after shows throughout the city. It is bonkers to me
in so many different places
that they don't at least give the band more opportunities to be exploited.
It's
literally,
it's just bad. And Austin as a place continues to go in this route. I've spent a good amount of time in Austin for Formula One, and just seeing the way things have changed in terms of the commercial kind of bloodletting or really ringing of the tourist population when it comes to visiting there. It's pretty disgusting, whether it's lodging, whether it's event tickets, anything. So yeah, I think this is a trend that's going to continue, and it's up to artists and people who like their music to say no.
Yeah,
it's insane that you brought up this article because low-key Brandon and I were just talking about this like either last night or the night before. How there are so many insanely illegal monopolies and mergers happening within businesses that have corrupted pretty much how we consume music, how music is even released.
It's all
the topics that are even shilled.
Super monopolistic, yeah. There's a video I want you to watch. I'm not gonna lie, it's very mean to Spotify specifically. But it kind of goes, it's like a deep dive into the monopoly that the record labels have over music and how it's strangling artists and everything. And it's also hilarious. So I'll send it to you.
It's a good video, honestly. And
it's not the one I have. It's
a
different one. It's a different one than the one I sent.
It's another.
Yeah.
I mean, even the one you sent, everything you just said applied to it, and I feel like it expands or it allows for a conversation that expands farther than music. Obviously, we're a hip hop podcast, but just in terms of media and how it's consumed in general, there's so many mergers that happens on the background that the average American does not understand or even know that happens. That just controls your day-to-day life.
Yeah,
and
you buy shit from 4 different companies.
Yeah,
right.
You just don't even the videos that you consume. That I was telling Brandon, there's so many mergers that we study in graduate school that I don't even want to bring up to him because I feel like he would want to tear his room apart. When you think of the Fox and Disney merger, when you think of the T-Mobile and Sprint merger, when you think of the list goes on. It's just media in general is just completely destroyed. And like you said, it kind of takes the community to actually be yo, we should probably fix this. Yeah. And this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the merger between Northrop Grumman and Newport News was stopped by the federal government because it was disadvantageous to them, because those are the only 2 companies in the United States that build nuclear submarines.
Yeah.
So, it shows where public attention and focus is versus where government attention and focus is.
Yeah.
So.
I want to put a little bit of a button on this before we move on to the next one because we're already an hour in. I want to shout out recent guest Shaw Calhoun for going the Bandcamp route and at least fighting the good fight to try and blaze a trail, in a way that just pays artists fairly,
Even though Epic Games now owns Bandcamp.
I know, but at least
the
they're
worst
nice.
Corporation
a chunk of
Bandcamp.
I don't know. BlackRock's pretty bad.
They're all pretty bad. When I think of Epic Games, I got to think about Rocket League that I played nonstop that bought us Psionics, and I want to break my controller.
I don't know. BlackRock is housing and getting rid of entire neighborhoods. It's bad.
It's all bad.
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. Everyone's talking about it. Rihanna, phenomenal job. I love her. What is there not to say? Rihanna's in her prime right now. She's coming back. There's an album possibly coming. She even said in an interview, if there's not an album this year, something crazy happened. That's pretty promising, in my opinion.
I didn't hear that.
She has a vocoder. I'm fully sold in.
Yeah.
It's Rihanna season. She snapped on the Super Bowl. She's pregnant again.
Insane. And also, I gotta be honest. Like, I played football for 10 years. I've watched easily 24 Super Bowls in my life. And I typically hate the halftime show. Like I say, the last 3 years, I liked it a lot.
Been a pretty good run.
It's been a pretty good run. It's been a pretty good run. And I gotta say, like, I like this one a lot. Of the three, I think this might be my least favorite. But just because of, like, my own
Look at the comparison.
Look at the comparisons,
right.
Exactly.
Look at the comparison.
You know?
And that's saying a lot considering it's Rihanna.
Yeah.
She had more views than the Super Bowl. They did the stats. There were more viewers for the halftime than the actual Super Bowl.
I don't doubt it, which is crazy because this was one of the best Super Bowl like games in years.
Phenomenal. I don't even watch football, and I was like fully bought
this
in.
Was a great
paid
Super
attention
Bowl.
to everything.
You know, very rarely do you actually get the two best teams in the league in a Super Bowl. So I don't even think there's really much to say about it. Shout out Rihanna. I think she did an incredible job. Who doesn't love Rihanna?
Good
if you
shit.
don't like
but
Rihanna,
what
just
really
turn off the podcast.
A hot take. No, I'm playing. What really sold me on it was the stage that looked like Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, I thought it was actually really cool because when you consider the fact that, like, I don't know, I went back, I rewatched some of Rihanna's old performances, and like, to be honest with you, like, I don't think there's that much of a difference. She was never like a Beyonce. Like,
I get that, but like, so Brendan and I were texting about this.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't want. This is going to be short. Like, if this goes any longer than a minute, I'm editing it out of the podcast. Like, but I thought considering she was a pregnant woman, I thought like that cool aerial stage show is a really cool way to do something visually interesting when your like mobility is kind of compromised.
For sure,
very restricted.
Because that's safe, but it's safe if you're standing still for the most part. Like,
yes,
yeah,
I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah, no, that's good. The main topic of tonight, we're doing a cozy one. We're doing a good old fashioned, just kind of jam sesh, talking about an artist.
Yeah,
and
this is fun.
You know, we seem primed for a new Tyler the Creator album, so we thought, why not start here? And then later down the road, we'll do a deep dive on an album or two of his. So,
I think.
Who wants to kick us off with Tyler?
Jasper does.
I think I know who it is.
I think Jasper does.
I think it's the guy with the teddy bears.
I really wish I had like a Flower Boy bear brick. That album artwork would look so good on one of these. But
my roommate has one in the room directly behind the camera.
Hold on 1 second.
Uh-oh, what's this?
Here we go. What is this? Is this Flower Boy? It's Flower Boy.
I still need Igor, and I still need Call Me If You Get Lost, but
I want Call Me If You Get Lost burnt on a CDR. That's how I feel like that's the natural way to listen.
Valid. But yeah, where do we even start? Are we going chronological?
Yeah,
or
what was your introduction to Tyler?
Introduction to Tyler was not through music. It was through Adult Swim.
Interesting.
Okay.
Was it Loiter Squad?
The show, yeah, Loiter Squad.
That's an introduction.
Oh, I love Loiter Squad.
When I was in high school, I had a friend named Max, who, I don't know if you can still hear me that well. Friend named Max, who was like very into Odd Future. And at the time, I wasn't really like big into hip hop yet. I was like very much into classic rock and, you know, some electronic and stuff like that. And I was like getting into that point. I think it was like junior year of high school when I really started listening like religiously. But this was like freshman, sophomore year where Odd Future was like a thing. The memes were happening. The controversy was happening. Getting banned from the UK was happening. All this stuff. And the show, I would go over to his house after school and just like the show would be on and I'd see it, and like I got introduced to like the Thurnis Haley character and like the I whoop your ass, your girlfriend looked like my mom, and like all that shit.
So
And it was
funny.
just like it was like fun memes and like whatever. And I never really like listened to him. But then my neighbor, who I'm still friends with today, this guy incidentally named Tyler, shout out Tyler for putting me on a lot of music. He had the Goblin album, and I like listened to it for the first time, and I didn't really mess with it. And then radio silence for like a long time. I didn't really think about his music too much, but I just always knew of him as like a pop culture figure. And that was kind of like where it got to up until more recently when I went back and actually listened to stuff that's come out since. And that's when I really like fell in love with a lot of it. So that was like my exposure to like kind of where I'm at now. It was like initial contact, very dead up until like 2 years ago, and it's like, oh hey, there's like cool new shit happening.
No.
That's dope.
Yeah, that's interesting, dude. I loved Loiter Squad. I used to quote that shit all the time.
Yeah,
The Deadliest Warrior episode.
man, yeah. There's so many good ones.
Smells like bitch in here. Amazing.
That's a
smells like
classic one.
bitch in here.
That's a classic one. I used that meme this week.
Yeah.
That's how relevant it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and then his appearance on Eric Andre was
Yeah.
also like at the time just like iconic, you know?
He's just a funny guy. He's like this naturally incredibly charismatic guy.
Yeah.
Now,
he's
like,
got some of the best quotes in the game.
yeah,
I feel like.
he really does. Now, me,
Yeah.
I remember I was at Ground Zero for the Yonkers video.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, where he eats the cockroach.
Yeah.
And it's like,
You
Like-
got this like starting.
and like I was
everything.
immediately put off. I was like, because I don't particularly like Yonkers as a song. Like,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, like I just think it's like a weird like spoken word piece.
Sort
Like,
of. It's
yeah.
it's got that vibe.
Yeah. So, but like I was open to it, and that was Goblin, I believe, right? Not
It was. Yeah.
Bastard
it
was the first one,
Bastard, Goblin,
and then
Wolf.
yeah, because I was not around for Bastard. I was off the charts, and then Wolf I listened to. Wolf I even bought because it was pre-streaming for me,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
I liked it well enough. It still had like an aesthetic that like kind of annoyed me, but there were definitely some standout tracks that I really did like. And it was at this point where it was maybe very similar to how we talked about Don Toliver, where it's like, oh, I like this guy, but you know, maybe this is just not the best project in the world. Then Cherry Bomb happened. And then I just did not like Cherry Bomb. I think I might want to revisit it.
Don't.
I would add Cherry Bomb to one of those like
Yeah.
expectations not met.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think.
don't.
personally-
I listened to it recently. It's not. It doesn't.
Yeah, okay.
There's like Tamale is like the track to go to, and that's
Yeah.
it for me personally.
Yeah, so like I just did not like Cherry Bomb. But so like post Cherry Bomb, I was like, no, Tyler's not for me. But then obviously Flower Boy was like this huge moment. Right? Like
Mhm.
even beyond
Yeah.
the album, because like there was this he came out apparently, I'm not sure, like
Yeah, 2016 was it was before the album came out.
yeah. And that immediate, and then like I started hearing like the about the quality of the album, and that's why I listened to it. And it was kind of like on the other side of that Don Toliver thing, where it's like, oh, this is mostly there, And then we've had this stretch, like this trilogy of just like really quality albums that feel very put together, like in the same way, like very meticulously like crafted, but all super unique. I like Flower Boy. It's probably my least favorite of the three.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
But his last two, run it. Like it took me a
Phenomenal.
while to
Run
listen
it
to
up.
Call Me If It Get Lost. It took me like 2 months because like I just wasn't in a music phase at that point.
Mhm.
But no, it's a phenomenal album.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
What about you, Purvis?
My introduction to Tyler was surprisingly very unique from the rest of the artists that I've
Was it
discovered
the church?
because
Like
no, I'm
this
not
is
gonna
the
say that.
devil.
what I would say is like surprisingly, so I found him around the Wolf era, and I found him through YouTube. Like I think his music videos are by none some of the best ones out there.
Oh yeah.
And I think what I found in him was starting off with IFHY, and then that had a phenomenal music video to it with that animation, the clay animation to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tamale came out with him and a bunch of goons, literally loiter squad, on a golf cart acting like idiots. So
Yeah.
I ended up finding him during the Wolf era, which is my personal, very controversial favorite Tyler the Creator album.
What? Wolf is your favorite? Wolf's good, but like,
I mean, if you have the
that's what I
nostalgic,
said, very controversial.
Pull, that's valid,
Right.
but it's just one of those things where critically, there's
Exactly.
questions. Yeah.
I feel like that when you discover an artist and really fall in love with them, you're like kind of trapped in, at least personally. This applies to J. Cole and Born Sinner. This applies to Travis Scott and Birds in the Trap. They are not their best albums, but they're my favorite albums. And so I feel like this is the exact same thing that applies to Tyler, where I was introduced was the Wolf era.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a phenomenal album. I see no flaws in it. Then I had the luxury of going back to Goblin and Bastard. Bastard is trash. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
I don't like Bastard, but I think trash is harsh.
I won't say trash because it is Tyler. Bastard, I really did not like.
No, that's
Goblin, I actually enjoyed. Goblin, I like Yonkers. I like Radicals. I like She. I think it's a strong opener. After that, it kind of dives into that like weird Tyler era where he talks about having sex with pregnant women and calling it threesomes, and that was just the norm.
Yeah,
because
that
that
was
was
just
his
weird
style.
and not fun.
Yeah, that was just kind of what he did. So I think it starts strong, drops off significantly. After Wolf, I hated Cherry Bomb. I don't think I got through Cherry Bomb, at least when it dropped.
Do we have consensus on Cherry Bomb?
I think it's pretty fair.
Wow. Okay.
Well, wait, are we saying consensus in that it's bad or that it's his worst?
Both.
Yes.
No. I think Goblin is worse than Cherry Bomb.
Okay. I see your point.
And I'll tell you why. Because in Goblin,
that doesn't bother me.
Look at the track listing for Goblin. The majority of the songs are over 4 minutes, or there are a lot of songs that are over 4 minutes. Like he
fight through it.
He was not
long
at
in
the point.
The tooth. It is.
Yeah, he was not at the point where he could make short, sharp, memorable things. It was always one extra verse, one extra chorus more than you needed, and it really makes the songs feel stale. You feel trapped in the album the way you feel with other ones where it doesn't go anywhere.
I completely agree. I don't know if it's worse than Cherry Bomb, but like that's a very valid argument. I do think that might have been a little bit of.
They're both very bad.
I think like there was like that wave in the early 2010s where like everything had that third or fourth verse,
Yeah.
So I do think that was a cultural thing, but that's not an excuse. So I think I think
just because you don't know how to end a song, yeah.
No,
and I feel like Cherry Bomb, I give props for it at least trying something new. This album, I feel like has aged poorly because it relied so heavily on shock value to make the songs hit. And when you've listened to the songs, as many times as a lot of people who like this era, it's just there just isn't enough there. Yeah. It's shock value and flash for the sake of it. I mean, eating the cockroach is that. So
I agree with you. 100%.
Yeah, that is true.
Which
is what he kind of took off on.
Yeah, and like I guess a question I want to pose to the group is like, whether we liked it or not, that run gave him like the cultural clout to be able to pull off what he did with Flower Boy. So like, do you even agree with that thesis?
I disagree personally.
Okay,
but I'm curious what Purvis has to say.
Like, because I agree. Because like, say what you will, at that point, he was a force, he had a small army of fans, like.
I think, like, logically what you're saying makes sense because, like, having that build up in the success from Goblin and Wolf, these weren't bad albums at the time, and this was before quote unquote cancel culture existed, if you even want to call it that, which I think all three of us hate the idea of canceling people. Yeah. Is that fair to say?
I mean,
I feel like
people should go. Well, just the idea.
Obviously,
it's a spectrum.
Yeah, it's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum. But like, I feel like a lot of people would be like cancel culture. Just
but like Tyler's like
no. If someone actually
Tyler's a good example of someone where it's like no, you're just trying to crack down on someone. It's one thing when it's like a certain author who's like spending millions of dollars so the government can go into people's homes and take their children. Like,
that's different.
That's a different thing.
You're right.
Yeah,
there are different levels.
But like Tyler I think is a great example of someone who's like, yeah, I think a lot of the shit he was doing was uncool, but it's like, once again, like the same way, like pre 2018, I thought a lot of people who like criticized Kanye were just like thinly veiling racism. I got a lot of the same vibes about Tyler, even though I wasn't a fan. You know, I do think like some of those more shocking responses to him were just that.
And I think that's kind of what I was alluding to, because like what we're coming down to, Tyler has two careers in reality.
Yeah.
There is the first career that can be canceled because of some of the very controversial things he said, but it was said during a time where like you just kind of have to have an understanding that expectations and how people were.
It was before the Cultural Revolution. That's basically what happened. Is like there was just like the election.
And this happens with all artists, by the way.
This happens in culture.
I can take old lyrics from all artists and be like, this is questionable.
I have a theory. I think everything changed when Donald Trump got elected. Yes. Like it's like when that happened, we realized that like this shit, like not only was like
it's not a game anymore.
It's not a game anymore. Like there's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's very
so like
real.
That's why comedy changed. That's why a similar thing happened around 9/11. Jon Stewart has like an excellent episode where he talks about that. Right. Mm-hmm. So like that's just what I think happened. And
it's a wake-up call.
And like Tyler is, when we really think about it, like he's a great artist to look at for that like separation of eras. And I even think there's another era, like there's another very clear era divide in Tyler's discography. And I think it cuts away that's kind of unexpected, and that's like streaming versus purchasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bastard, Goblin, Wolf, I don't think Cherry Bomb. Those were all released like when most people still bought their music on iTunes.
Let's say CDs, iTunes.
I think at the time the majority was digital purchases. But then I think Cherry Bomb may have been when streaming was starting to take foot, and then certainly Flower Boy was like post-streaming, right? So not only do you have like that cultural lens that like cuts Tyler's career in half, you also have like a technological lens and like a creative lens. It's really interesting. Like there's a lot of artists who reinvent themselves. No one really has like two careers in the same way Tyler does.
Oh, so, it's very unique.
Yeah. There are two things about what we just discussed that I want to address.
Yeah.
One, I really don't think that the first run gave him the cultural cred to make Flower Boy a success, because if you look at who his core fan base was, derived from that 3-run album series, that's a completely different demographic, I think.
Whole different demographic.
Who have put Flower Boy on a pedestal.
He almost had to start over.
Flower Boy was like the pop breakthrough for him when it comes to like listenable music that people can get behind and enjoy as something other than strictly rap or something other than strictly shock value.
Or even like horrorcore. Like really,
horrorcore,
He was like the next Eminem in that way. My thing is that I was talking more about the back end. You know, like, you know, like more like, oh, he was able to get access to these producers, access to these studios.
That's
valid, more what I'm talking about, is that like, I don't think you can make Flower Boy in your bedroom the same way he made Cherry Bomb, you know? So, that's more what I'm talking about. Like, it gave him access to the tools he needed to make that album.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say just about those first three as well, you know, in terms of canceling that whole thing, I think that there's a lot of stuff on those albums that is obviously questionable for a lot of reasons. And, you know, we're right to look back and say, hey, you know, this didn't age well, or this is, you know, bad take, whatever. But I got to say, I think him coming out in 2016 sheds an entirely new light on a whole bunch of things that he discusses unfavorably, you know, across these albums. It takes him from the position of, wow, this guy's just a homophobe, to like, wow, this is someone who's really struggling with self-identity and is kind of like lashing out in a way, at least in my perspective. It's like it's like he hates himself for feeling the way he feels, and he's going to lash out in music to kind of reconcile those feelings. So for me, that's like something interesting and not redeeming, but
It's a recontextualization.
yeah, it gives it a new context for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many times where you see that across these albums where it's like lashing out for really it's unprovoked. There's not like a context to it.
Like I'm kind of.
That's interesting.
I agree. I agree that that's a way to look at them. My only thing is that, like, I'd be more. I would find the specific things that we're talking about when we say, like, uncharitable things that are recontextualized. I might. On one end, it's like I don't think anyone owes us an explanation of their life or their whatever,
Totally.
their gender, their sexuality. I don't think he owes us an explanation. So whatever he's given us, that's good enough. So like on one end, I think that. But on the other end, I don't think he is wearing his the identity of a gay or queer man as hard as he could to like warrant that recontextualization. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't think that you have to show it in order to be justified in that, right? Like, I think it has to do more so with just like the framing.
That's fair. That's fair.
Knowing what you know about him and knowing that like if he is bi or pan or however he identifies, and that's something that he's come to terms with and came out with, then hey, I think looking back, he's clearly he didn't just suddenly like realize, oh hey, I'm bi or I'm pan. It's like these are things he's been wrestling with,
struggling with.
Yeah. So during the time of these albums is when he's like exploring this in a way, but it's just like you don't know that up front until after the fact, and that's kind of like where I saw it from.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. I give you all the credit in the world for
that. And I think that's super interesting going into the second run, because one album is about falling in love with a man who has a woman, and the other one's about falling in love with a woman who has a man. So it's like, hey, perfect. We've come full circle now.
Yeah, man. So like, is there anything about old Tyler that you think is better than new Tyler? I don't think so.
No.
Not really.
I'm still upset about the fact that I saw him when I saw him.
When did you see him live? That was something I wanted to ask, because like I've been lucky enough to be able to see like pretty much all my favorite artists live at this point. So Tyler is actually probably my top 3 people to see live now.
So old Tyler is one of my least favorite artists in rap, the last 3 albums.
Yeah.
New Tyler, the current 3 albums, is top 5, literally.
Yeah.
So for me, I saw Tyler in 2016 at Coloring Day, and the crowd and everything, the vibes were off. Purvis, I'm sure you remember this. People didn't know the songs. They played all the hits at the time. They did Yonkers, they did IFHY, and people just weren't feeling it. It was like,
it's literally, you had to know who Tyler was.
It was him and Jasper and Taco, and there were like 3 people in the crowd with like Odd Future signs and shit. And then it was just such a bad look because he like tried. He was like trying to get the crowd amped up. And then this was like in the afternoon. Right after this was when Young Thug was supposed to go on.
Yeah.
Young Thug was supposed to go on, never showed. Kanye West shows up and just blows the entire fucking stadium out of the water.
Yeah.
And there's a shot. And there was a stream. So this was streamed on Tidal at the time, right? When Tidal was a thing, RIP.
I used Tidal up until about 5 months ago.
There you go.
Dude, that app sucks.
So the Tidal stream, it's like you are seeing like this beautiful
people
like
jumping over it.
Yeah, it's like the second coming.
Yeah.
It's just like this beautiful stream of like all this insane shit happening. But then listen, he's performing fucking Father Stretch My Hands, and it cuts. And
everyone's just on a mad dash.
So while everyone's freaking out, it cuts to Kanye on stage, but then behind him in the back, like off stage to the stage left, you can see Tyler and his crew standing there, and Tyler's mouth is open. He can't believe that the crowd has that much energy because he just could get nothing out of them. And it was just such a juxtaposition as far as like what people resonate with and what people want to listen to, at least in that context. For me, I was like, man, this sucks. Like, this sucks for him. This just like the music he brought to share with that audience just did not hit. And for me, I'm so annoyed by that because it was this exact moment which was like the halfway point between old Tyler and new Tyler. Because this was what, September of 2016?
2016, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just a
Something
missed
like
opportunity, and I
2016.
have not had the chance to see him live since, and I'm frustrated by
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
I feel like
I know he was at
But-
Lala in 2021.
He was, and I wanted to go, but that was still COVID was a thing. And
Yeah, it was.
family.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
no,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. And a lot of people got
Not a lot
COVID
of
from that. There was a
people.
big spike in the city at that point. So I'm glad I didn't
Was
go
there?
in that sense. There was, yeah. There was a
I actually-
measurable
I
jump.
remember reading this really in-depth medical report about the prevention at Lala and how impressive it was.
They
There
did
was-
a good job, but
Yeah, they did.
considering numbers
Yeah, no,
overall in the city,
I'm
just
certain. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think that's totally valid. I had the chance to go to that Lala. I didn't. Like,
Mm.
but-
Okay, so the official traceable cases, they marked at 203. I tend to think that of the number of people there, more than 203 cases of COVID were spread during that time.
Sure, but that's still like it was probably expected to be traceable, probably in the thousands.
Maybe, yes. So a lot of
in terms of those stats.
Yeah,
a lot of news sources claim that there was no major connection, but for me personally, I think that not
That's
knowing
fine.
the
That's
benefit
fine.
of hindsight, like I think it was a risk not worth taking to an extent.
I think that's valid. I think that's
Yeah.
a valid take. Like, don't get me wrong. It's always logical to err on the side of caution. like,
Yes.
Plus,
No one's mad at
good
them.
guy Tyler uploaded the entire uncut set to his
Yeah.
YouTube channel, so you
And,
can
like,
watch it online.
I had a boy who went and saw it, and he isn't even the biggest Tyler fan, and he was like, it was incredible.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, it's showmanship.
Yeah. So
Great.
he is at the tippity top of my list of artists to see.
Yeah, me too.
What about you, Purvis?
He is absolutely on my list of like must see. Obviously, Frank Ocean's number one. Number two is Travis Scott.
Yeah.
They will not be replaced at any point
Yeah.
until I see them.
Where's
but
Jid
he
on
would
this
be.
list?
I mean, we're seeing Smino and Jid. You don't know. Every time I think about it, I get excited.
It's so good.
It's gonna be amazing. Jasper, we're gonna have to get you tickets because we bought
We'll
those
see.
before you on the podcast.
I don't know if I appreciate either of them enough at this point, just in terms of being familiar with their work to
The
really
live
appreciate
music
what I'm seeing.
will put you in that position.
That's facts. I mean, that's how I discovered Lil Uzi Vert. That's totally valid.
I'm gonna go so hard. I took the day of and the day after off.
I
Nice.
literally took the day of and the day after off.
Yeah.
Nice.
I am.
You
sad.
can just crash at my place because I'm like a block away.
I'm not gonna be able to make it out the stadium
Yeah.
if I get up. But anyway, he is very high on the list. What I would say, what I am benefiting from actually enjoying his quote unquote first career, Tyler the Creator was a very relatable, I feel like, figure in terms of his first career for like the quote unquote weird kids. You've seen so many celebrities talking about like, oh, I wanted to be in Loyalty Squad, or I wanted to be
Yeah.
in Odd Future Wolfgang. SZA's come out and said, and many other artists are just like they kind of fit the script of like
They were
being the
moving.
weird guy, even though in some cases the weird guy kind of created weird lyrics, questionable,
Yeah.
dark lyrics. He served a purpose and he satisfied a very large demographic within that. I wouldn't put him on the scale of like Kid Cudi saved my life, but like Tyler did a good thing for that community and like
Tyler
serving
made your
as a
life
role
better.
model for
Yeah.
it. Exactly.
He didn't save
And
your
I
life,
think
but he
that
made it
stands for
better.
something.
You know, I
100%.
I think a lot of people hold on tightly to Tyler because, like, I think something that plagues the American psyche of all ages is a lack of community. And I think having such a tight knit fan base like Odd Future did, I think for a lot of people that was their first chance to be in a real community. So I think,
Yeah,
and then
legit.
like, look, I don't think Tyler, even his early stuff, which I'm not the biggest fan of, I don't think it was by any stretch like irredeemable music.
Agreed.
And then
Yeah.
he blossomed into like this one of the-
Literally a flower boy. He
What?
literally blossomed into
and then
this
he turned
whole
into
new
like this person who I put creatively right up there with Childish Gambino or Kanye or well, not
Yes.
Kanye.
I gotta say, hindsight, I gotta put Tyler over Gambino at this point.
Oof.
Not that's musically. I'm not including Atlanta. That doesn't like
Yeah, I
film
know.
and other multimedia, I don't count in this.
Yeah,
But you look at the trajectories
that's
of what
the
they
take.
you look at the
That's a take.
trajectories. You look at the trajectories of what they've put out. One has consistently improved and increased in quality. One has not. It's just how I feel about it.
I wouldn't say not. It's just I
it's
think
just that he
Tyler's
had one
done it
step
better.
down. Yeah, the thing is that like Tyler's
Yeah.
graft looks like this, and Bino's as of right now looks more like this. And
Right,
it's just
he's
like
on the
what's-
down scale right now.
You know, look, we'll see when this next album comes out because
I
it's
agree.
coming
Yeah,
this year.
we'll see what happens.
If it's another because the internet awakened my love, because like the thing is like once again I didn't think 315 was particularly great, but I don't think it's an
me neither.
irredeemable. And the other thing is that I think it's still like a creative vision that I appreciate. I just don't think it's done very well. I don't think it's sonically very interesting.
I very much
It's
put
so hard for me not
315.
to include Atlanta.
I put 315 with, houses burning. It's exactly in that weird kind of.
I put Houses Burning above that.
But that's what I'm saying.
Honestly,
It puts.
on one
It's
level,
in this for me. It's in the same area where it's like, oh, this is purgatory of like I don't feel anything for it, and positive or negative, it just is. That's how I feel about that project.
honestly, I think like I'm gonna like really contextualize my opinion on that project right now, because I think
Here we go, Gambino on the fucking Tyler
no,
podcast.
this is gonna be
Let's
quick.
go.
No. I think like on a surface level Sonic kind of way, I would say The House is Burning is a superior album to
Yeah, that's
315.
valid.
However, the thing The House is Burning doesn't have is it doesn't have a cohesive overall creative vision. 315, I don't think it's a compelling or interesting or cool or good creative vision, but it does have that creative vision of this is a snapshot of this exact point in time.
I
And
agree.
like, listen, I don't think it works either, but it still does something on that level, and that's the thing I appreciate. I once again I concede it's a step down, and if this next album isn't an improvement, we can have this conversation. I'm probably gonna
wrap it up.
I don't know about wrap it up, but I'll join him in that Tyler goes above Gambino, like in terms of raw
Musically.
creativity musically. This
I
year is
think
really
it's-
going to
yeah.
define that.
I think it's just that Tyler right now, it's like the only way forward feels like up at this point. I mean, he could disappoint, but just given the consistency and Gambino, it feels like if 315 to me, like while I appreciate that there was creative vision behind it, it feels barren. It feels like something
Yeah, no,
that
totally. It doesn't feel like there's any emotion in it. There's a vision.
it feels like it
Yeah,
feels
but
like he
there's no
put something
emotion.
out. It feels like he put something out to placate the fans before he went to do what he really wanted to do, which is not music anymore. It's film.
Yeah.
I get
That's
that.
what it felt
That-
like.
that
and
is-
and
I
that
don't
leaves
hate
a bad
that.
taste
I
in
don't
my
hate
mouth.
that. I don't
As
hate-
like so
Yeah, I don't
we'll
hate
see.
that take. I don't hate that take at all. Yeah, no. My thing.
I don't know.
my
It's
concern-
really tough for me. I don't want to argue, but like I feel like Tyler can't do because of the internet. I think Childish Gambino can do it. Igor. That's my take.
But Igor is a better album than Because of the Internet.
Whoa,
No, it's
you're
not.
not a
No, it's
nobody
not.
anymore.
No, it's
don't
not.
know,
Like,
No, it's
In
not.
hindsight,
I
I
love
don't know,
Igor,
man.
and I understand the hype
No,
behind
I love
it.
Igor.
It's not.
Igor's my favorite Tyler project.
Igor is
No.
phenomenal.
No.
Because the
Hard
internet
disagree.
All right. I
is
gotta hear.
untouched.
I gotta hear. What is it about Because of the Internet that is it puts it on this pedestal? I gotta
One,
know.
surface level classics throughout the album. 2,
Mhm.
compelling concept. 3, metagame.
Okay, I mean that's valid. I think the only thing that Tyler lacks on Igor for that is the meta component, though. I
Yeah,
mean,
and look,
I mean-
I'll admit that the meta component is the least important of it.
Yeah.
But because I think it works on like a surface level and like a conceptual level, I think he gets points for the meta level too.
that's fair. I think that that's an album that has some bloat to it still, even though it's
I-
got
Bloat
I
it's
would
great.
disagree.
like
I mean,
songs that be minutes, they're interludes.
Yeah.
And it adds to like the overall story.
If you wanted
okay,
to say
be
that
fair,
the
I'm
back
just
half
gonna let you
were
know.
weaker than the front, I'd agree. But
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
think
that's what I'm
there's
saying.
much bloat.
no.
I
I
was
mean
gonna
that's
say-
that's fair. Yeah.
The thing is, well, because of the internet, I don't compare a lot of albums to because of the internet.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
just need to let you know now, because of the internet, it's like
it is in
tier
the same.
S.
It is like in the
It
block
is above
category.
like yeah.
it is.
For me,
Yeah,
I put this
and-
up
I
with
agree.
Blonde.
I
I
mean-
put
Yeah.
this up with My Dark Twisted
I
Fantasy.
do not put this with Blonde.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. For me personally, that's not it.
and
Like,
if
I love it. I love Camp. I love Because the Internet. I love Awaken My Love. All like great albums. But hindsight for me, I feel like it's not at that level in terms of like.
See, I did have that hindsight about Camp. See,
Camp
I don't care
is
about the rest of Childish Gambino's discography because the Internet is a absolute masterclass classic. I will argue with anyone to the end of the day. The rest of the discography, I don't care.
Well, Awaken My Love is almost as good. I would say Awaken My Love is almost as good. But to bring it back to Tyler, right, for a second, what I think could happen to Tyler, that is, because you say the only way you see it going is up, right? I gotta be honest. I think that's.
I agree.
I think that's what's going to happen. That's what I want to happen. But my fear for Tyler is that he may iterate in that zone of quality between Flower Boy and Igor for the rest of his career. Right? He'll make aesthetically, conceptually distinct albums all within that quality range. Right?
Which is good.
It's kind of something you see, like, I think Kendrick Lamar is kind of, like, at this level, because, like, how do you get better than Kendrick Lamar? You know, like, he's just kind of iterating at this point. It's a disease of the high artist, you know, once you hit a certain ceiling, you can't go any further. You know, it's something I think happens with Martin Scorsese, and that's how you get, like, movies like Silence, which are masterfully crafted, but I saw that movie once, and that was plenty. Like,
yeah.
So I think that's the realm that's my fear. I don't think it's what's going to happen. It's not what I want to happen. I'm just saying, like, I don't see a huge decline coming, but I could see some stagnation.
I think that's a possibility. But one thing that I do want to just kind of like circle back to with like everything we've been discussing, Purvis, I want to hear your take on this, right? I'm curious, in 10 years' time, how do you think that Because the Internet and Igor will have aged in terms of how you feel about them now?
Ooh, that's like an impossible question to answer. For me,
no, I don't think it is.
No,
if I'm like 10 years down the line, it's hard to, because the thing is, when I think about these albums, these really aren't recent albums.
They're not.
At least in
because
terms
the Internet's
of where
coming
I
out
was.
10 years old.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, 2019 for Igor. That's more recent.
Yeah, that's 4.
Right. It is more recent, but I will say in terms of the life periods that we go through, if that's the correct term, where I was 4 years ago is a very, very different person.
Yeah.
Right. And this is something that I want to touch on right here, what you just said. Right.
So I feel like even now we're looking 4 years since Igor, we're looking 10 years since Because of the Internet. I don't know if it matters if it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. I've already had the time to develop and understand
to create that taste. Yeah.
Right.
So, and I think that's
I don't know if it's going to change.
Now, let me ask you a follow-up question to that, and this is one I think is good for both of you. What do Blonde and Igor have in common that is not shared by Because of the Internet?
They're whiny?
I mean, that's not shared.
That are not shared.
Not shared.
Not shared.
Because the Internet.
I have no idea.
I feel like there's one specific thing you want me to look for. What is it?
It's the thing that presides over both projects. They are, in terms of theme and in terms of message, a simple concept album about a basic human emotion. Right?
Yeah.
They're both about longing. They're both about feelings for another person or multiple people. And despite this very basic concept that the album rides on, the musical proficiency with which the message is delivered is what makes the project, right? So here's my take. Blonde, Igor, Call Me If You Get Lost, over time will continue to age better than Because of the Internet, because they deal with a completely timeless subject matter, which is longing and love in a way that Because of the Internet doesn't touch. And because of that, you know, you might have opinions about which songs are hits and are better and whatnot. But I think in terms of just like public perception, projects like that have that universal appeal will always age better. And I think you see it in other genres too. I just think that because there's such relatable messaging to it. I mean, that's why people resonate with Blonde so much, even though it, never had Grammy consideration commercially. It only ever hit streaming initially, and all this stuff. But people just latched on to that concept and that message, and that's something that Channel Orange had going for it too. It's unrequited love is like the theme of the album, and people resonate with that. So I think that that's going to put these albums in a different category when it comes to classic status 10 years down the line, or even 5 years down the line. Well, who knows?
I'm sorry, I have such a counter argument because I completely disagree. Because
I'll leave it alone.
Oh God,
I didn't completely
I think what
disagree.
saying,
I was in the middle.
I think you're raising good points. Like I don't think anything you said is out of bounds.
I think Igor applies. I don't say Call Me If You Get Lost.
It's too new. Call Me If You Get Lost is too new.
Yeah.
But Call Me If You Get Lost revolves around the exact same concepts. All
it's structured too different.
I
will say Igor, in terms of relating to Blonde, spot on.
Yeah.
I will say a simplistic human emotion such as love and belonging, absolutely. Or Igor and Blonde, right on top of that. Call Me If You Get Lost. I see hints of it. It might be because it's too soon, like you said, but I don't think it's at that level quite yet. I think farther down the line, my only counter argument is that because the internet deals with very different type of subjects, and within itself is a concept, like the album within itself is an actual story.
Right.
Yeah,
that's why I set it aside.
I gotta jump in here.
Yeah,
because,
go ahead, please.
Because here's my thing,
but yeah.
Because here's my thing, right? Because I think using the logic of your own argument, I think I can just like completely flip it. Because I think,
all right.
Because the internet does deal with a very simple human emotion, and it's one that I think is probably as relevant to the people alive today listening to this music as Igor and Blonde. And unlike those, I think it's becoming more relevant. And that is the existential terror of the encroachment of technology and the internet. Like the emergence of this new form of human culture. I think that kind of existential terror is I'm going to say, I know it's a hot take, but I don't think there's a counter argument against it. I think it's as universal as love at this point. Like, and I think the thing is, because the internet, Blonde and Igor, I'll grant those two. They express very basic, universal human emotions that we've been making art about since we lived on the savannah in a beautiful, timeless, but also specific,
simplistic.
Yeah, in a way. But because the internet brings this completely new truth, this incredibly complex thing that everyone is dealing with, but no one knows how to put into words, and it expresses it simply, right? I think it expresses this very complicated thing very simply. And like there are lyrics on it that are like becoming more and more prophetic. Like he has the bars on that one song, I forget the name of it, it's in the back half, where it's like, someone could run in with a gun they 3D printed, and it's like, this shit's happening now. This shit happened. Like
it's a real thing. Like World Star, the whole concept of that
World
song
Star is like
in the time
prophetic. It's like borderline prophetic. So like my thing is just like, no, I get that it's not a traditional like ancient primal human emotion, but I think it's as universal.
It's modern and relatable to everyone.
I think that's super valid. The one thing I'm going to say that I think time will tell if this is something that actually holds up or not, is, I think as a society, as we grow further disconnected from that fear, because adoption tends to happen. New technology gets adopted. Generally, it takes time, but it does. I think that this album is going to really, at some point, seem like a product of its time rather than something that is timeless, is what I'm saying. Because as technology continues to improve, we're going to get to the point where things become further normalized, right? If you had told someone 20 years ago that you had a phone that had your calendar in it, what would they say?
Blow their mind.
Right. If you tell someone 20 years from now, the phone is in your literal hand.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to have a very different view.
I think technology is going to outpace what the concept of the album is trying to say.
I just think that that's a pretty massive assumption. And I think the material reality in the 10 years since because the internet has come out is that
Oh yeah.
people aren't less terrified by technology. After like Cambridge Analytica, after 2020, after QAnon, after the vaccine stuff, after all this shit, I think people are much, much more. And like, don't get me wrong, I love technology. I think technology is a human good, and I think it's a thing we should strive for. I'm not trying to demonize it, right? But like, I just think like if you look back at the last 10 years, I don't think there's anything to suggest that we're gonna round that corner. I hope we do, but I just don't see anything like in the world.
I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, I just think it's not going to be it's not going to be a rounding of the corner because people
Yeah.
come to terms with technology as something that is wholly good. It's that the
Yeah.
corner is going to be rounded and that we're going to have critical
Yeah.
adoption because it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Society isn't going to change, but the technology is going to continue to permeate, I
Yeah.
think.
So like,
And I think in that sense,
Yeah.
you're going to see, you know.
Yeah. So that's just my argument. You know, I think it does deal with a very simplistic universal truth. Wow. Because the internet ran. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I'll give it.
It's a concern that I did not expect.
This is podcasting. This is the magic of the podcast.
Yeah. It's a topic.
Okay. Let's get back to Tyler. So we've talked about his impact. We've talked about having old Tyler versus new Tyler. Everything that he's done throughout his career. Is this a good thing or bad thing to have multiple careers? Because in reality, we've already talked about the 50 worst albums from brilliant artists, and we see Lil Wayne jump into rock. We see Kid Cudi jump into rock. We have Tyler the Creator jump into an entire new branding.
Yeah. But the thing is,
do you think this played a impact on his long-term career?
I mean, obviously, I think that
I think it kept him
divide.
relevant.
I think that divide in quality is why he is the way he is. Like, there's no doubting that there was an ascension that took place. What I do think though is, you know, it's not like, you know, you listen to Igor and then you listen to Goblin and you're like, there's no way these are the same people. You know, like they feel, you know, they feel pretty authored, I would say. So I do think it can be a bad thing. I think it could be a sign of selling out. I think it could be a sign of breaking free, kind of like how J. Cole kind of has, like, you know, before Born Sinner and everything that was on that major label before he went independent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, yeah, it's not as clean of a break because J. Cole kind of, in a way that I think was cool, like went pop again, like in 2018, 19, and pretty much ever since. But yeah, no, I definitely think like it's a thing that can hurt or help people. But for Tyler, I think it's been mostly just a matter of the quality.
Yeah, I think there's only been one artist who's done kind of a clean break into a new style as well recently, and that's, I mean, critically not necessarily, you may disagree, but commercially at least, and that's Playboi Carti. Because you see the change over with the release of Whole Lotta Red.
Yeah.
In just the style in every aspect, and you see what it's done in terms of the kind of reinvention of the artist. And yeah, I mean, for some people it doesn't work, for some people it does, but I think in Tyler's case it's given him new life and it's given him a new audience that he never would have had. I don't think he ever would have been taken seriously as an artist if it weren't for the break, because he started making music about serious and like I said, universal topics.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah, I mean, he's a complicated guy. And the thing is that, like, you know, we still have a decade of Tyler albums. You know, who knows if this is just the middle of a triplicate.
Definitely hope, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. All right, are we calling it then?
Yeah, cool with me.
Yeah. You have anything else you want to end off on, Jasper, as our resident flower
hot
boy?
Debate.
Like,
well, I gotta say, I don't know if we really I think there's a couple of things we didn't really touch on from the notes, like the love or hate kind of thing. I think that's an interesting thing to discuss before we head out of here.
Yeah, I just have a meeting in 9 hours. This went long. But yeah, no, I think, like, I don't know. I think a lot of people I think he just like when you're a strong artistic personality, there's always going to be a division, right? No matter what,
Yeah.
there's no artist that has ever been universally acclaimed unless they were watered down. I mean, someone who's like eye-rollingly loved, like Tarantino in our circles, like there are plenty of people
Yeah.
who hate him. You
I
know?
mean, Simon and Garfunkel.
Exactly. You know?
Yeah.
So I just think, you know, it's hard to be a true artist and be loved by anyone. I think that's a very loved by everyone. I think that's a tall order.
Yeah, and I think some people misunderstand the work a lot of the time.
Yeah.
The whenever I see arguments about the fact that Igor shouldn't have won Best Rap Album, it's like, did you listen to it? It has rap on it. Just because it doesn't have.
I didn't like that discourse. I thought Igor definitely
Yeah.
it's
They deserved it.
I don't even think it's very experimental. It's vaguely experimental.
Yeah, but that's the thing is because it's non-traditional to
Yeah.
the pop sound. I think a lot of people didn't understand it and didn't want to step out of their comfort zone to appreciate it. And I think that's where a lot of those arguments come from. So I think people are misinformed or don't bother to get informed, and then we see takes like that because of it. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
No, I mean that is true. That I feel like that happens to pretty much every artist at some point. Just unfortunately, it's how the industry is ran with all the streaming. People get popularity. They're gonna come across some kind of controversy at some point.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can be avoided. Unfortunately, I feel like because he is so split, there's so many things with the development of technology and the exposure aspect of, like we mentioned before, the cancel culture and how it's on the spectrum. People can find an old lyric from 10 years ago and be like, what's wrong with you? Why would you say this? So, I mean, he is very vulnerable to that kind of aspect of the industry of like easily being able to be canceled because of what he used to say, because boy, was it out there.
Yeah. The other thing
but
is
it's
that,
just kind of it's take your lumps.
Yeah. Another thing is that like when we talk about like what he said was out there, I think it's fair to mention that there is plenty of stuff that was pretty abhorrent that is not recontextualized, like by
Born Sinner is one of my
queerness.
favorite albums out there,
Yeah.
and the first album says the F word.
Yeah,
which
that's not
you
a
can
good
fill
look.
it
That's
in
not good.
multiple times in
but
like the first verse.
But think about it, like we're still having this debate. We had it about Mr. Morale, and
This is true.
And that was a debate, that there's not really an answer. There is, and then there isn't. Like,
all right, if we're gonna wrap up, I wanna ask 2 questions first, and then once we have our little things, maybe we can give some song recs and get out of here. My first question is favorite Tyler song. Don't everybody speak at once.
Favorite Tyler song.
ooh.
Hold on. Give me a second. I gotta go back and really take my time.
Hold up. Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Favorite Tyler song, because I like I want to get a right answer.
I think I have. I think I
Personally.
know what mine is, and it's from an unexpected album.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine is Domo 23.
Oh, interesting choice. That's a song that of the songs on that project, yeah, I mess with that.
Yeah, it just goes so hard.
Yeah.
That is tough, man.
Yeah. Look, I like
the
thing is that like I love Call Me If You Get Lost. And like I don't think it's like repetitive or derivative or anything. But to me I'm just so used to playing it as an album, just hitting like start and then like not even looking at it.
That's valid. I mean, it's an experience, and that's
Yeah.
I think it mirrors exactly what he wanted in terms of like it gives you that like Wes Anderson. You just kind of put it on and get captivated by what it is.
Yeah, it's like a Wes Anderson movie hosted by Dat Piff. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's great. Purvis, thoughts?
Yeah.
He's struggling over there.
Right, this is kind of tough.
He has a bunch
I'm gonna
of
give
good
2
songs.
I know it might break the rule, but I'm gonna give 2 songs because I think it's only right because he has 2 careers. In terms of the first career, which is much more dark, I will put the song "She"
Oh, that's a good
featuring
one.
Frank Ocean. Phenomenal song, great story, great music video. Everything comes together perfectly. The themes of the album are just shining bright within this one single song. I think that's his first career. Of his second career is tough, but I might have to go with Boredom by Flower Boy. I know it's very overplayed, but I
Interesting
think
choice.
Boredom is a phenomenal song in his new career. I think it wraps up, even though I know this isn't a trilogy, but his 3 albums that he put out in his second career, Boredom is a perfect breakdown on every single core emotional human aspect of what he applies to these like different albums and the themes that come up. Boredom in general, just the idea of boredom, the amount of time that I've sat down in my own free time and just think about how the choices you make, the things you do when you're bored, and how that actually affects you and how you view time and use your time effectively. Boredom as a concept is insane, and he wraps it up very well in this song. So that would be my new Tyler Creator song.
Okay, I'm gonna give a new Tyler one then because I gave an old one. And I'm gonna go running out of time on Igor.
Good take.
Yeah, that's
good take.
Very good song.
That's a
very good song.
Yeah. I have two. I also have two because my heart says one thing, but my Spotify Wrapped and my stats say another thing. So my heart says New Magic Wand.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Easy choice. But my Spotify Wrapped says Lumberjack, which was my most played song of last year.
Lumberjack's a good one. Lumberjack, Lemonhead, What's Your Name, all those songs so good.
Yeah, Lumberjack is one where I feel like it's such a juxtaposition to everything on Goblin, because it's like he figured out how to make a short, sweet banger and keep it moving, which is like it's like such a breath of fresh air compared to like 5 minutes of running through extra verses and chorus.
Definitely.
So that was
a damn good song.
That's one question. My last question, which I think is going to be a lot tougher for both of you. Well, maybe not. It might be easy actually. So there are two Odd Future members who have really kind of had well-known pop culture careers, right? Is it?
It's Frank.
In terms of, I'm not asking who's. I'm not asking
that's
who's,
the question.
No.
Frank
I'm not asking who's had a better. I'm not asking who's better critically. I'm asking who would you say in terms of media, what they've put out, presentation, promotion, everything. Who has had a better career in terms of the project's releases?
Frank. Where's Tyler's cock ring?
Valid. I mean, Tyler will sell you a $2,000 leather trunk.
Yeah, that's
a solid. It's a solid offering.
I like that.
Solid offering.
The only offer that I will accept from either one of you is in this order: Frank Ocean, Earl Sweatshirt, Taco. If you say anything else, I don't care.
No, I definitely.
I don't think there's another order from that.
I like Earl Sweatshirt as an artist, but like he's just not someone I listen to like that.
Same.
So I would put Tyler above Earl. But
I thought we weren't counting Tyler. Are we including Tyler?
We are including Tyler. So what I'm saying is Tyler versus Frank specifically in terms of like their media promotion, rollouts, just the general scope of their career outside of like quality of their music. Who do you think has had the better career?
It's just like Frank barely has a career though. Like,
I was gonna say, what are we even comparing?
Saying. But that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like, can you rest on your laurels on the fact that you have like this super cult following, despite not putting out a lot of content and not staying publicly visible? Versus whereas Tyler has built a more public and like a more devoted following over time. They've kind of done the opposite in a sense, where Frank was like big pop culture hit and then built like a super core fan base after the fact, whereas Tyler I think went the opposite direction. So I'm asking like, of those two paths, what do we think is, has played out better?
Just go Purvis.
I was gonna say, if we're looking at them as artists, then you have to include the music. It is the music. All the other things don't matter. It is Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
No, I think that's valid.
My thing is that because like I think my point of reference for here is like to look at artists like other artists like filmmakers and authors and stuff. And it's like Yeah, like I think Channel Orange, Nostalgia Ultra, and Blonde are all that good
Yeah.
that
Not
I
touching
give
it.
Frank. I get that that's high praise. I get that like there are maybe 10 artists who can kind of get away with that. And look, like it's obviously better to be someone who makes art as good as Tyler and as often as Tyler.
Yeah.
But like Frank just hits that upper echelon.
You are not going to get another Channel Orange or Blonde in your life.
Yeah.
You're
I
not going to
agree.
get
No.
another Frank Ocean, and that's the sad part.
Yeah.
When we actually talk about generational talent, we personally
Yeah.
will probably not get another Frank Ocean
Yeah.
in our lifetime,
And like the other thing is that like
and it's just what it is.
my favorite author is George R. R. Martin. I'm prepared to love artists who don't put shit out. Like
Yeah,
Yeah. I think where I was kind of going with this was the idea that, like, yes, you know, Frank obviously has that status as far as the cult, and the albums all stand alone in their own
Yeah.
way. I personally have some problems with Channel Orange relative to the other two, but yeah, I mean, they're excellent, and I just, for me personally, like, the cult of Frank is so strong, right? But then at the same time, I feel like they're two. It's like the Benjamin Button of careers, where it's like cult versus not cult, and then pop fandom versus not pop fandom, pretty much. And for me, I just like looking at the two and where they go next in terms of like their relevance to modern day culture, society, whatever. I find it hard for, unless Coachella and everything happens the way it's going to happen. I don't see Frank's position in pop culture continuing to expand or grow as Tyler's seems like it's going to continue doing if he keeps putting out projects of this quality. That's kind of where I was going with it, where it's like, I think Frank has achieved his critical mass unless he starts doing new things, because it's just like so much time has passed. There's going to be like that, a little bit of erosion, I feel like.
I mean,
it's tough to say.
I understand the temptation.
I mean, it's speculative.
Yeah.
I'm just, it's
Yeah.
an idea.
Like
Yeah.
I understand the temptation to be like, yeah, Blonde is just so good. Like how is that not critical mass? I understand that, like wanting to think that, but I just think like we gotta see what the next album sounds like.
I agree.
Like,
If
you
there is
know.
one, that's a thing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
if there is one, But the thing is that
I just-
like, if this is Frank's career, if we really have seen the end of it, my answer is just,
it's
Frank.
It's Frank. It is what it is. And personally, I feel like it's more of an accomplishment to get a cult-based fan base off of what's popular than the opposite direction. I feel like if you have a cult-based fan base, which Tyler did, and then he quote unquote sells out, which I don't think he necessarily did.
I don't think.
But
Tyler
if we're
sold
saying
out
it,
at all.
No, he
right,
didn't.
I don't think he necessarily did. But if we're saying in the context of comparing it to Frank Ocean, which did the opposite way,
Mhm.
I think that's more impressive. If you could take pop music and build an insane, committed fan base who's willing to kill people over like you don't like Frank Ocean, that's more impressive. Doing it in the opposite direction, in my personal opinion. And so I feel like it just naturally that would put Frank above Tyler, and that's not a discredit to Tyler in any sense.
Yeah, no, that's a fair take. I'm glad that we discuss it, because it's
Yeah.
like it's one of those things that I think about, because I'm like, yeah, well, these two have been on songs together and they've influenced each other's careers, but it's like now with them seemingly going in totally separate directions, it's like,
But
who's what?
as much as I say this, like let's check back in 5 years, like.
Right? Yeah.
Like
Back in 5 years.
I'm not.
You said
I'm
it
not
earlier.
gonna. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that can't change. I'm just saying this is how I feel right now.
Right.
Yeah,
We'll
it's
give it
one of
some
those. It's one of those things that I was thinking about, because there have been blips of Frank, right, throughout time, pretty much, where it's like he'll come out and do some features and then disappear again.
Yeah.
And you see that across like Flower Boy, but then after that he's absent on the next two. So it's like, what's going on? Is there more of like a divergence in terms of like Tyler's sound is going in a direction where he doesn't feel the need, or is it just that that's not what he's looking for in terms of maybe having features, that kind of thing? Because here's one thing, and then we'll wrap it up. But like the song Puppet, right? I don't love that song. I know a lot of people really like that song. That's not one of my favorite songs on Igor. It's got Kanye featured on the chorus very minimally. I think it's kind of a waste of a Kanye feature personally, just the way it's like filtered down. But that could have been a Frank feature, right?
Yeah.
For what it is. And it's just one of those things where it's like he's just like the absence of Frank on Tyler's later work speaks volumes to me. Like it feels like it's a loud silence, I guess. But yeah, that's just like where I was kind of approaching it from.
No, I think that's valid. Gentlemen, we are doing recommendations. I want to go first.
Go for it.
Okay.
I want to go first because I've had this song in my recommendations since before we interviewed Shaw, and we talked about it already today, and I don't want someone else to take it. I'm recommending one of the greatest songs ever written, Bugatti by Ace Hood plus Future.
Oh my god.
My god, this song is so good. How does this song not just bring...
This is a phenomenal song.
It's so good. That hook, incredible.
Yeah. Classic, just wild.
That song came out the year I turned 21. It was dangerous. Like, when that song came on, I blacked out.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
I can't name another Ace Hood song, but that song fucking slaps.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 song.
No lie.
Yeah, that's fair, but like...
All right, bet. I appreciate that. I like that. Jasper, are you ready? You want me to go?
You go ahead. I need to look at the list and see what I've already shared.
Okay. No, it's funny because I am 3 weeks ahead of recommendations.
Yeah.
But for this week, the first one is going to be "Say It Ain't So" by Weezer.
Hey, let's
Weezer?
go.
I love that song, Weezer. Say it ain't so. Whoa, whoa.
Bro,
my God.
I can play that song on
guitar.
guitar. Dude, I can play that song on real guitar.
Back.
It's so fun.
Bro, I'm trying to tell you. You used to play that song with Rock Band and Guitar Hero, whatever it was.
That is a top
10 out of 10 song.
That is a top 20 song in my entire life. I love that song.
Absolutely phenomenal. So that's what I'm going with my first pick.
Incredible pick. I almost brought Weezer last week because I love Weezer. I mean, like Weezer's hard because Weezer has a lot of bad albums, but they have a lot of good albums. Like,
and you get some quality classic.
Well, the Blue album,
the
album "Say It Ain't So" is on. Masterpiece,
banger.
Start to finish.
10 out of 10. That's what I'm opening.
Every song sounds like "Say It Ain't So."
I'd love to see it. Then I'm gonna have to go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna talk about a band that I love that I haven't yet talked about on this podcast. Not rap, but if you don't know, you gotta know. We're going with "Dead Crush" by Alt J.
Oh, okay.
This
okay.
Heaviest shit. Purvis, if you don't know it, you gotta listen to it. Crank your bass.
I was gonna say I feel like I've heard of.
You've probably heard it
times.
You've heard Alt J for sure.
Yeah.
They've been commercially successful on and off for a while, but like their later stuff does not get the time of day. This song was a hit, so it wouldn't surprise me if you've heard it in passing. But just sitting down and listening to it, it's super solid. They're super unique. I got to see them at UIC like last year. And man, just an experience.
Good bad. I do like Alt J. I'll give you that.
All right.
Brandon, what we got?
What's the second one?
Here's my second one. Okay, so I want to bring it back to the Super Bowl a little bit. We had Rihanna, right? Oh, there was another performance at the Super Bowl too. We had the national anthem performed by my favorite, and I think probably the only really high quality country artist working today, Chris Stapleton. I've recommended him on the podcast before. I almost did my first double dip, where I recommended the same song I recommended 6 months ago, but I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
But what, Jasper? I see the finger.
Are you familiar with Jason Isbell?
Not super familiar.
Okay.
But
all
like,
right.
know, but I'm recommending Chris Stapleton's cover of the country music classic Tennessee Whiskey. And the reason why this song has been like really stuck in my head this week is because after the Super Bowl, obviously the worst people in the country had to be clutch their pearls at Rihanna.
Yes.
And what's super funny is they would juxtapose like Rihanna against the super patriotic Star Spangled Banner Chris Stapleton did. But here's the thing. Chris Stapleton is down for the cause. Chris Stapleton is a rebel. He is fully on the defund the police train. He called America an imagination, a dream, a nightmare.
Little did they know who they're supporting.
He is quite literally a more radical figure than Rihanna could ever be because she's a billionaire.
Based.
Yeah. So first off, I thought it was funny. And the other thing, and Purvis, I didn't send this to you because I forgot, but I'm going to try and find it, is I found this black music critic who was talking about Chris Stapleton and about how he really is only a country artist. I would say he sounds like a country artist, right? I think he has that aesthetic. But their claim was just like, when you listen to the way he sings, he's really just a soul artist. And they market him as country because no one's going to listen to a white soul artist, no matter how good they are. So I thought this was a good song to just kind of sample, like, oh, he's this level of singer,
Okay.
So Chris Stapleton, this album is on a classic,
You said it was a cover, and even the title of Tennessee Whiskey, I would assume if it's a cover, it's a classic song. You think of Frank Ocean covering Moon River,
it's something
but I don't
like
know the song Tennessee River.
Tennessee Whiskey, yeah.
Tennessee Whiskey.
I'm sure if you listen to it, you'll immediately recognize it. It's a very, if you just like thought of like country music, it just sounds like, in my opinion, it's a love song.
Bet. Fair enough. I'm sold. I will listen to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my second song is another absolute banger. Sam Sparrow, the song Black and Gold. Black and gold, black and... I don't know. It came up on my Instagram, and I have been fully sold. This song's an absolute banger. I absolutely love this song. So that's going to be my second recommendation. Jasper?
Right. I'm going to throw in another country boy in the ring here. We're doing Jason Isbell, Isbell. He is the only kind of country singer-songwriter adjacent country artist who I listen to, period. I had the chance to see him live at the Chicago Theater. Super, super good, really talented. And the song is called 24 Frames. He's got kind of like a southern, southeastern twang to him, but very similar in that he's anti-establishment and all that good stuff. But a lot of his songs walk the line between like more like classic, like southern rock to an extent, like his older stuff, and then now more so singer-songwriter with like southern influence, country influence. And yeah, his entire album Southeastern is great. I really like his that's one following that, Something More Than Free also. But Southeastern is what got me into him. It's just a super solid project front to back, and I recommend.
Okay. All right.
But I'm going to take a look into this. It's 2013 Southeastern.
Yeah, so good. Whole album front to back, I mess with heavy.
Yeah. All right, bet.
Friends.
We've made it.
We made it. This was longer than expected, but it was cozy.
It was
cozy. It was
a fireside chat.
It was very relaxing.
The hoodie's up. I'm very cold.
All three hoodie gang. Hoodie gang.
This is hoodie gang.
Yeah.
Welcome to the crew. I always switch up the hoodies. So.
Next week we're doing a deep dive on Hoodie Allen.
Do you want to know what's super funny? I almost recommended
for everyone listening to audio. I just got Purvis. He was mid drink.
Yeah.
And I said Hoodie Allen. And
I almost recommended a Hoodie Allen song. I'm not joking.
I am banning Hoodie Allen.
Oh no, he's pop punk now. It's not rap.
I don't care.
He went the EDK route.
It's a good It's a good song. It's a good song. I'm just saying. Hey Ben, with games we play, free rap.
We're done.
Hey Ben,
we're done.
I'm gonna.
We are done. We are done with the podcast. I'm standing.